is a live stream of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. And today we have scheduled 4 public hearings. And before we get started on the public hearings, again, just to remind everybody, this is public. The very first thing that we'd like to do is introduce members of the committee. And my name is Michael Brennan, and I'm the House Chair of the Education Committee. I represent District 36, which is part of Portland. And next, I'd like to introduce the Senate co-chair, Senator Rafferty.
Thank you, Representative Brennan. My name is Joe Rafferty. I represent Senate District 34 down here in York County.
Next, Senator Woodson.
Dave Woodson, District 33 in York County as well.
And Senator Daughtry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I'm Maddie Daughtry. I represent Senate District 24, which are the communities, the very snowy communities this morning of Brunswick, Hartfield, North Yarmouth, Freeport, and Pownell.
Right. And Representative Dodge.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jan Dodge. I represent House District 97, Belfast, Northport, and Waldo.
Representative Crockett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Ed Crockett, District 43, which is part of Portland and part of Falmouth.
And Representative Stearns.
Good morning. My name is Paul Stearns. I represent House District 119 of Piscataquis County.
And Representative Millette.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Millette. I represent House District 30, which is most of Cape Elizabeth.
And Representative Lyman.
Good morning, Sheila Lyman, District 74, J, Livermore Falls, and part of Livermore. Thank you.
And Representative McCray.
Good morning, folks. I'm Dave McCray. I live and reside in the snowy central part of Aroostook County in Fort Fairfield, my home is. And I represent District 148. Good morning.
Thank you. And Representative Sampson.
Good morning. I'm Heidi Sampson, representing the good people of House District 21. That's Alfred, Limerick, Shapley, Newfield, and Parsonsfield. And I have to say ahead of time, I will apologize for bouncing in and out today. I'm playing midwife on the farm.
Well, thank you. Representative Salisbury.
Good morning. I'm Sue Salisbury, and I represent House District 35, which is part of Westbrook.
Thank you. So in addition to the members of the committee, we do have Eli Murphy, who is our committee clerk, and he's essential to the running of the committee, and he will be the one that will be allowing people in to testify on this particular, the first bill that we have. We also have Ms. Hillary Risler, who is our staff person from the Office of Policy and Legal Analysis, and she'll be joining us periodically. We have a little bit of a change of order in terms of the schedule this morning, and we're going to have LD 1902 go first, and then that will be followed by 1870, 1880, and 1893. And obviously, we're changing the order a little bit because we have quite a few people that are signed up to testify in support of this bill or want to comment on the bill. So in order to accommodate their schedules, we're going to have that bill go first. Our intention is obviously to cover as many bills as we possibly can and get through the public hearings as we possibly can. But as we get closer to noontime, if we do have a natural break in the public hearing schedule, we'll probably take a half-hour break between 12 and 12:30, just to give people on the committee time to replenish themselves and get food as necessary. So again, just to remind everybody, this is live streamed, and to remind everybody that your comments are public. Again, we are going to start with 1902. which is a resolve to establish a pilot program to encourage climate education in Maine public schools. We do have over 15 people that have at this point registered to testify. So we've decided to institute a 3-minute clock on testimony. So we'll allow the sponsor of the bill and any co-sponsors unlimited time to present the bill. But when we get to public testimony, we will be expecting and try to keep people to a 3-minute time limit. So that all being said, we will turn to Representative Lydia Bloom, who is the sponsor of the bill, and ask her to present the bill to the committee. So Mr. Murphy, if you would let her in, that would be terrific. And welcome, Representative Bloom. We're happy to have you here today. I think you're not muted anymore, hopefully.
No, I'm
No?
not.
Okay, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for accommodating this earlier schedule. It really matters to a lot of the people that are interested in this bill, being students and teachers. So thank you, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. I am Representative Lydia Bloom, and I represent District 3, the coastal part of York. I come before you today to introduce LD 1902, Resolve, to establish a pilot program to encourage climate education in Maine public schools. Climate change is real, scientifically measurable, and taking a toll on our planet and increasingly on our mental and physical health. We are in a decisive decade to take the necessary actions to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to avoid the worst effects of a warming planet. Here in Maine, warming impacts are already being felt by our heritage industries and our citizens. These impacts are accelerating. Sometimes it seems right before our very eyes, and we need to adapt to what we cannot change and to control what we can to slow down those changes, especially for the health and well-being of our children. The next generation is most at risk of experiencing faster, unprecedented change. This is a real challenge for them, and one that also offers opportunities to our youth. We will need their energy, thoughtfulness, and innovation to make the best of what the near future holds. One of the Climate Council's recommended strategies, namely Strategy H, in the Maine Won't Wait 4-year Climate Action Plan, is to increase educational opportunities in climate and energy. This bill supports this strategy by offering professional development opportunities for Maine educators and by enabling school districts to partner with local community-based organizations in order to better educate students of climate change's causes, impacts, and the new opportunities created because of it. It is important to note that this bill is not a mandate. This proposed bill recommends a 3-year pilot program that will provide $3 million in grants to train teachers in our already adopted next generation science standards and interdisciplinary climate education. I wanted to share with you that last November, I attended the COP26 conference in Glasgow. And one of the things that struck me was how energized the youth movement can be against climate change. They know it will be their biggest challenge. And as I told Maine Public Radio in an interview that same month, I really wanted to come back and say, we're listening to you, our youth in Maine, our youth of the world. We are in Maine actually making a difference with our climate action plan. And what a better way to support this than to provide our educators with the skills necessary to teach the future citizens of this great state. And as a proud member of the Maine Climate Council and founder of the legislature's bipartisan Coastal and Climate Action Caucus, I am asking you to help accelerate climate change education in our public schools because our students and teachers are asking for it, and the time is now. Maine has already decided we won't wait to take action on climate change. Engaging our youth can only help all of us. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to take any questions, but I know there are a lot of people behind me.
Well, thank you, Representative Bloom. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for all your work on this issue. And at this point, we would entertain any questions from members of the committee. Seeing none, thank you very much, and have a good day. And I'm sure you'll probably stay with us for much of the testimony.
Thank you
and
so
we
much.
look forward to seeing you at the work session.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next request we had was Audrey Huffnagel requested to go next in her testimony because she had, I guess, some other educational opportunities or obligations to fulfill. Mr. Murphy, is she next in the queue, or?
Representative Brennan, we also have Representative McCray to testify on this matter.
I'm sorry. I should have asked for co-sponsors that would testify. And Representative McCray, you're more than free to have the floor at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. I'm Representative David McCray, and I represent House District 148 up in the central part of Aroostook County. I've lived my life in the great little town of Fort Fairfield. I'm here to speak in support of LD 1902, the resolve to establish a pilot program to encourage climate education in Maine public schools. LD 1902 proposes that a pilot grant program be established to assist schools and educators to promote training in the next gen science standards and multidisciplinary climate education. The program, as I understand it, has a sunset clause at the end of 3 years or when the funds are depleted. It is important to note that an annual report must be submitted by the recipients. Additionally, the Commissioner of Education shall submit a report to the legislature and make appropriate recommendations. A little bit off script, something that I noticed in my long science education career is the lower you go in the grade schools, when you get into educators that have to be generalists, that have to teach everything. If they're strong in a particular subject, those kids get a great base. But if they're not strong in something, or if the curriculum has relegated certain subjects to a minor role, such as science often is in the elementary or social studies, they don't really get their fair share of time. And I think an awful lot of good can come of this bill by making it so that those people, especially those generalists that may not be well versed in any one particular thing, especially in this case, climate change, etc. I think that would be an immense help to the overall education system. So it is my firm opinion that given the concerns of recent years around climate change and associated science, the time has come for the education and cultural affairs community to take a more active and formal role in these particular matters. I thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you very much, Representative McCray. Are there any questions for Representative McCray from members of the committee?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you very much. And Mr. Murphy, do we have any other co-sponsors?
Not that I know of, sir.
Okay, great. So could you allow Audrey, kind of bump her up on the list so that we can allow for her testimony?
She is in the call.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Welcome. And Ms. Huffnagel, you have the floor.
Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Audrey Huffnagel, and I am a sophomore in high school from Damascotta, Maine. I urge you to vote ought to pass on LD 1902, a resolve to establish a pilot program to encourage climate education in Maine public schools. The climate crisis is an urgent issue. In Maine, we are already seeing its effects, from the warming of the Gulf of Maine to the increase in tick-borne illness and the increasing irregularity of weather patterns and much more. Without immediate bold action, these effects will greatly worsen as time goes on. and it will be my generation who will have to deal with the worst impacts of the climate crisis. But we cannot do so unless we are provided with the proper knowledge and skills, which is not currently happening in many Maine schools. In my whole time as a student, I have only had one unit on climate change, which only covered the science of the issue and did not go into depth on its impacts. In fact, I didn't truly understand the severity of the impacts of the climate crisis on the future of the planet until I did my own research. LD 1902 would provide the resources for schools to implement interdisciplinary climate change education so students can learn about the impacts of the climate crisis and understand what they can do about it. LD 1902 was created with input from students and educators from across the state. Many educators have identified a need for training and support, so this bill would provide funding for professional development for educators on how to teach climate change education. The need for this support has become especially evident as the pandemic put serious strain on schools and educators. Additionally, LD 1902 would help implement the climate education recommendation in the Maine Won't Wait Climate Action Plan and the Next Generation Science Standards that Maine adopted in 2019. LD 1902 is an investment in the future of Maine. It'll not only help students acquire the knowledge to deal with the climate crisis, but it'll also provide pathways for students who are interested in agriculture, engineering, renewable energy, and other fields that are important in dealing with the climate crisis. As a student who wants to have climate change education in school, and as a climate activist who wants to see more young people educated about the climate crisis, I believe that this bill is crucial to the future of our state. For all of these reasons, I urge you to vote ought to pass on LD 1902. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for your testimony. And are there any questions from members of the committee? And I just want to say you're a terrific example to start off with. Your testimony was well under 3 minutes, and you've set a great example for everybody else to follow. So we appreciate it. Thank you. And have a good day. And we will go to the next person on the list, that is Alan Armstrong. Is he not with us, Eli?
Get that.
Oh, he is. Okay, Mr. Armstrong, welcome.
Good morning.
You can proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Senator Rafferty and Representative Brennan. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the committee. Audrey is a hard act to follow. My name is Alan Armstrong. I live in Portland and am a member of the Portland Climate Action Team of Sierra Club. We're one of those community organizations that work with young people, and our work would be assisted by this bill. So far, our work has focused on assisting high schoolers in securing solar energy for the Portland schools and publishing a workbook for fourth graders to introduce them to Portland's climate action plan. I'm 82. I'm a member of a generation that failed to act when climate change became evident in the 1980s. I think probably our failure was due to the fact that we were not educated about climate change. We have always thought of the climate as a constant, a given, something that would never change. And so we really couldn't imagine anything else. But the world we're leaving to our children is not like that. It will be fraught with unprecedented challenges for them. They will need to make decisions that will determine their survival. And so the least we can do is to educate them for this new world, to give them the tools that they will need to survive. And then to give our teachers the training that they will need to provide this education. This is just what LD 1902 provides. So please vote ought to pass. We don't have any time to waste. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Thank you for being here. And are there any questions from members of the committee of Mr. Armstrong? Representative Stearns.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one quick question, Mr. Armstrong. First of all, thank you for being here this morning. But you mentioned that we, and I'm almost in that generation, and taught science for several years. You mentioned that we've always looked at the climate as being static and not changing, and I'm wondering where that was learned. I have always known that the climate is always changing. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, I think of I don't know, maybe that's just me. I have always, until I learned about climate change in 2014, I was not fat, dumb, and happy.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Mr. Armstrong? Seeing none, have a good day.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Amara FG and from Maine Environmental Education Association. Amara, good morning. Thank you for being here, and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amara Ifeji. I'm a National Geographic Young Explorer, and I'm also the Director of Youth Engagement and Policy with the Maine Environmental Education, which is based in Brunswick, Maine. I am here today to urge you all to vote ought to pass for LD 1902. So in high school, I was really grateful that I had really powerful learning experiences through internationally awarded research efforts in climate science, where I was able to witness climate impacts on Maine firsthand, especially those on our lucrative fishery industry. However, none of this education was done in a classroom setting. I self-sought every single one of the climate education opportunities I was able to engage in, and I facilitated similar opportunities for hundreds of students at my public high school who expressed similar interests. I'm now an informal environmental educator, and I hear similar desires from 400 youth across the state of Maine in my organization, Environmental Youth Network, who also express a desire for these learning opportunities. My organization is also focused on supporting educators, and I hear from countless of educators from across our state that they are eager to meet these needs of our students, but they need the professional development support to do so. LD 1902 directly addresses not only the urgent climate emergency of our generation, but also the desperate need for support inside schools across the state right now as the pandemic stretches on. It's clear to me that the question of quality climate education and support for our teachers needs to happen now, not next year, not the year after. If we are to become a state that builds a workforce prepared for the challenges of tomorrow, meets science educational standards, is competitive to receive federal funding that is coming this year, and is on track to meet educational goals outlined in Maine Won't Wait, we need to invest in climate education now. With your vote, you can play a role in equipping young people with the knowledge and advocacy skills they need to be at the forefront of environmental solution generation. For all these reasons, I urge you to vote ought to pass on LD 1902. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Great. Seeing none, thank you very much and have a good day. Next up, we have Beth Ahern. Welcome, Ms. Ahern. Good to see you, and you can proceed with your testimony.
Good to see you. Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Beth Ahern, and I offer testimony today on behalf of the Environmental Priorities Coalition, the EPC. The EPC is a partnership of 37 conservation, environmental, and public health organizations who unify around a common agenda every year. The EPC represents over 120,000 members in Maine who want to protect the good health, good jobs, and quality of life that depend upon a healthy environment. LD 1902, I'm proud to say, is one of the priority bills for our coalition this year. LD 1902 will support equitable access to climate change education by funding professional development for Maine teachers through community partnerships, as you've heard. Maine students need to be prepared to respond to the climate crisis. Many young people and old people feel hopeless as they consider a future increasingly impacted by climate change. They need to understand climate science so they are equipped to address the crisis, evaluate solutions, and enhance community resilience. Additionally, Maine's clean energy economy is growing and offers significant job opportunities for young people primed to enter the field. As a climate action leader, Maine has identified the need for climate education, and teachers need support to provide that education. Maine adopted next generation science standards in 2019 that include climate education standards and a climate action plan in 2020 that recommends enhancing climate education opportunities. Maine teachers have identified a lack of professional development as a significant barrier to meeting those articulated standards. And in particular, Maine communities that have been historically marginalized are often also overburdened by environmental harms and are in most need of professional development support for teachers. Federal programs to support climate education are in active development, and Maine must prepare itself to seek and receive those resources. Climate education will provide Maine students the tools they need to propel Maine to a clean, green future. Through this bill, Maine's K through 12 teachers can access training and funding to include climate education in their curriculum, no matter what subject they teach. This bill will also fund partnerships between schools and community organizations to create unique educational opportunities that will excite students to see the world in a different way and empower them to make a difference. By supporting climate education community partnerships with under-resourced school districts, Maine schools will be better positioned to bring additional federal funds here to where they are needed most. Please support funding climate education opportunities for Maine schools, students, and teachers, and vote ought to pass on LD 1902. And I thank Representative Bloom for bringing this legislation before you.
Thank you, Ms. Ahern. Again, we appreciate your comments. And are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, have a good day, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
I hope so too. Lovely to see you. I rarely get in front of this committee, so it's a treat for me.
Yeah. So just to back up for a second, we had Ania Wright, and I got her caught between two other names, but she's with us. And Ms. Wright, please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anya Wright, and I am the youth representative to the Maine Climate Council, and also graduated from Falmouth High School in 2015. I'm speaking today to ask you to vote ought to pass on LD 1902, as it will effectively prepare our students for their futures and help meet the Climate Council's goals as set out in Strategy H of the Maine Won't Wait plan. As I said, I graduated from Falmouth High School in 2015, and though my science teachers did teach me about climate change while I was in the school system, like Audrey mentioned before, I really didn't begin to understand the true weight of the climate crisis until I was able to study it on my own and also study it extensively in college. And we've been really hearing from students around the state that they want more education on climate change. And we've been hearing from teachers that they need our support to take the task on. Teaching students about climate change is a really effective mitigation strategy against the climate crisis. A study by the San Jose University found that students who have taken intensive climate change classes make more environmentally friendly choices, which the study found added up to 2.86 tons less of carbon emissions per student per year. And were students across the nation to take a class like this, the paper concluded that the potential reduction in heat trapping pollution would be about as much as other major mitigation strategies like rooftop solar and electric vehicles. And so not only will this bill help to prepare future generations to deal with the climate crisis, but it's also an effective strategy to meet the goals of the Maine Won't Wait plan. Robust climate change education will help build our green economy by inspiring young folks to pursue green career paths, help prepare them for the future ahead, and ensure that they have the tools to make climate conscious decisions in their future. And furthermore, Maine's climate action plan set Maine on a course towards significant efforts to address the climate crisis in our state. And LD 1902 is one of the few bills in the sessions that would truly advance the Maine Won't Wait climate action goals. I appreciate your time and consideration. Happy to answer any questions, and please urge you to vote ought to pass. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wright. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, have a good day. And again, thank you for being with us. Next up, we have Carrie Hodling.
Hello. I see my.
Well, we can hear you, but not see you yet. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Good morning.
I used to say my name rhymes with hoteling to my students. My name is Carrie Hoteling, and I've been a lifelong environmental educator in the state of Maine, recently retiring from 26 years of teaching at the Falmouth Middle School. Science is memorable if taught using data collection and interpretation to solve local issues. To do this well, it's best to embed technology and the guidance, expertise, and data of organizations conducting real science work in the state of Maine. 97% of climate scientists agree we are in a crisis. We are not looking at a future climate crisis, but we are living it. I'm a proud resident of a state with an ambitious climate action policy to deal with this immediate need for response, and I'm encouraged by the addition of recent education goals. Working with young people for my entire career has taught me the power of their ability to solve problems and take action. One of my students last year said she had climate anxiety in the fall, and when I asked her how she was doing after we started our unit in the spring, she replied, "This information has made me understand and feel empowered." We need to inform and empower that next generation. And the best way to do this is through educating in our public schools. I fully support the way that LD 1902 is a pilot program to encourage education in the public schools, climate education in the public schools. As evidenced by the census of Maine needs in 2019, teachers are crying out for professional development to teach this very complex and potentially controversial subject. I'm very disappointed with the letter of the Maine Principals Association that you may read later. They are correct that there are national resources currently available for teachers, but they are incorrect in saying that we are using them to teach NGSS right now. We do have other states to use in improving our plan to fill the holes that exist in our pre-service education with relevant requested professional development. However, as clearly stated by teachers in the above census and my own personal observation, having the resources is not the same as having the confidence and knowing how to teach this very complex, interdisciplinary, and controversial subject. As the motto on our climate action plan says, Maine won't wait. The progress report for year one of the 4-year plan has achieved nothing last year for educating our youth as citizens and for their future jobs. Please prove that it's time to catch up by supporting the passage of this pilot program, LD 1902, and vote ought to pass.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you.
We will now move to Drew Demouche, and I believe he is with us. Mr. Demouche, go right ahead with your comments.
Great. Thank you, Representative Brennan. Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Drew Demouche, and I'm the resident of Saco and the president and CEO of the Ecology School, a nonprofit residential environmental learning center located at Riverbend Farm in rural Southwest Saco. For past 23 years, the Ecology School has been working with thousands of Maine students and their classroom teachers to support their environmental science curriculum. This morning, I'd like to focus on how LD 19 1902 has the potential to help jumpstart a strong green economy in Maine and sustain climate resilience over the coming years. Climate change education is just not about learning how and why climate change is occurring in Maine, but it can also be a response that creates a sustainable community, a resilient Maine economy, and help meet the goals of Maine Won't Wait. This past spring, the Ecology School finished construction of 2 green buildings under the Living Building Challenge, which is the most rigorous green building challenge in the world. It's kind of like LEED certification times 100. And our new 9,000 square foot dorm and 7,000 square foot dining commons, which actually has an all electric kitchen, is actually powered. We are a climate neutral learning community powered with 712 solar panels installed by Revision. And a huge majority of the wood was Forest Stewardship Council certified wood from Hancock Lumber. Those 2 examples right there, Revision Energy and Hancock Lumber, participating in the building of a learning center that now will host hundreds and thousands of students and classroom teachers from Maine, is a way that we can model a climate resilient future for students and classroom teachers right now. Maine doesn't need to wait to model the future that's climate resilient. And I urge you all to vote ought to pass on LD 1902. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you very much for being here. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, have a nice day. And we'll now move to Eliza Donahue. Welcome, Ms. Donahue, and you can proceed.
Thank you, Representative Brenner, Senator Rafferty, members of the committee. My name is Eliza Donahue. I represent Maine Audubon and our 30,000 members and supporters, and are very happy to submit testimony in support of this bill. Maine Audubon, we often don't have the opportunity to come before this committee. We're a statewide wildlife conservation nonprofit organization. We use conservation science, advocacy, and education to advance our mission. And as an organization, we've been steeped in supporting and promoting environmental education for over 40 years, and we have seen the strategies that this bill would support work firsthand. Maine Audubon works with teachers, schools, and districts throughout Maine to help connect students with nature and environmental literacy, primarily within their own communities. This work is perhaps best exemplified by more than 3 decades of direct partnership with Maine's largest and most diverse school district, the Portland Public Schools. There, we visit classrooms and host field trips to help students learn about wildlife and habitat. We support teachers with curriculum and resources and work with district leaders to develop programs, train teachers, and find funding. As we have expanded our reach via similar work to more schools statewide, we have witnessed both the demand for and the efficacy of improved teacher training, access to outdoor learning, and partnering with local experts available in many Maine communities. We also conduct numerous pre-service trainings for aspiring educators annually, meaning hundreds of new teachers start their jobs with the skills and desire to engage their students in hands-on real-world learning about the environment and challenges around them. I was really taken by Dave McCrae's comment about generalist teachers, and if they are particularly inspired about a subject or know a lot about a subject, they're going to teach it. And I think that this bill really helps to achieve that purpose. So for that reason and many more, Maine Audubon supports LD 1902, and we urge the committee to do the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here, Ms. Donahue, and thank you for your comments. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, I just want to make, thank you very much. And we're going to move on to Ezra Sassman. And Ezra, before we have your testimony, I just want to make one quick process point that right now we're taking testimony from all the people that are in favor of the bill. Typically, after we hear testimony from those favoring the bill, we listen to testimony from those that are opposed to the bill, and then neither for nor against. And at this point, the only people that are signed up to speak for the bill are either in favor of the bill or neither for nor against. So just to make it clear that everybody so far is in favor, and that will continue to be the case until we find out something differently. So, Mr. Sussman, thank you for being here, and you have the floor.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to apologize for any snowplow noises you might hear in the background. I'm calling in from Bar Harbor, Maine. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Ezra Sassman, and I am the Advocacy and Organizing Coordinator for Maine Youth for Climate Justice. We're a coalition of over 300 youth and 20 youth-led groups from across the state who are fighting for bold climate action and a just transition to a livable future in Maine. I'm testifying in support of the bill, urging you ought to pass. The climate crisis will affect the futures of young people for generations to come. Because of this, young people need to understand the impacts of the climate crisis so that they can take action now and know how to deal with it in the future. This cannot happen without climate change in Maine schools. Many students in the state are lacking proper climate education, so they don't understand the severity of the climate crisis and the impact it will have on their future, and then they don't know how to take action. In addition to the need for young people to take action on the climate crisis, the state needs young people who are interested in careers in industries such as environmental science, renewable energy, and agriculture that are necessary for expanding Maine's green economy and dealing with climate change. Having climate education in schools will make students aware of, that these career paths exist and give them the knowledge and inspiration to pursue them. LD 1902 would provide interdisciplinary climate education. Climate change would affect many different aspects of our lives, so it can be taught in many subjects. This will further help prepare students to deal with the impending climate crisis. Additionally, as has been mentioned by other testifiers, LD 1902 would help implement the climate education recommendations outlined in Maine's Maine Won't Wait Climate Action Plan. It would help provide educators with the necessary support to teach the next generation science standards. Many educators have pointed to the lack of professional development as a barrier to implementing these standards and teaching climate change in general. LD 1902 focuses on providing the funds for professional development around teaching climate change. It is not a mandate for climate education. Instead, it focuses on providing much needed support for educators. The need for this support has become even clearer as the ongoing pandemic has put strain on our schools and teachers. LD 1902 would also pave the way for future support for schools to teach climate education, because schools with developed climate education programs will be in a better position to receive federal funds and other grants in the future. With this support, educators will be able to teach climate education to students so that they can understand the impacts of the climate crisis, become empowered to learn more about what they can do about it. Because of this, LD 1902 is a crucial investment for the future of Maine. For the above reasons, our coalition, Maine Youth for Climate Justice, urges you to vote ought to pass on LD 1902. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much for your comments. Are there any questions for Mr. Sassman? Seeing none, again, thank you for being here and have a good day. We're next going to go to Josh Caldwell. Is he with us? Yes, Josh. Good to see you. Must be cold where you are. You got your hat on inside.
It's snowy out there. Thank you so much for having me today. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and distinguished members of the Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Josh Caldwell. I am the Climate and Clean Energy Outreach Coordinator at the Natural Resources Council of Maine, and I am testifying today in support of LD 1902. I've really appreciated the comments so far by all our testimony providers, and I have submitted my testimony in writing. So if you want to follow along or reference it afterwards, it's there for you. And thank you to Representative Bloom for that overview at the beginning as well. Climate change is a pressing issue for Maine, of course, but also our nation and the world, and it will continue to be so for the foreseeable future. Youth today are growing up during an era defined by climate change, and it is important that we equip them with the educational tools and knowledge needed to live, work, and thrive in such a setting. Maine has mobilized against climate change through the state's climate action plan and associated legislation over the past 2 years, and that work should be reflected in our state's educational system. I have 3 main points that I want to raise about this bill. The first is on Maine's climate action plan, the document that was crafted through a bipartisan process in 2020 and is guiding our efforts towards climate action into the future. As Representative Bloom mentioned, Strategy H, engaging with Maine peoples and communities about climate impacts and program opportunities, in the climate action plan states explicitly that we must increase public education opportunities around climate and energy. The state's climate goals extend decades into the future, and by building a climate education pipeline, we'll be able to maintain progress and create a safe climate future for generations to come. Not only will climate change represent a pressing issue for current and future students, but it will also shape the occupational and economic landscape of our state. Climate and clean energy jobs are growing quickly, and we must have a place in an educational system that supports those pursuits. Climate education is a strong foundation for youth to choose a career related to Maine's natural resources, and LD 1902 is the only bill currently being considered that would advance the components of Maine Won't Wait that hinge on climate and clean energy education. Next, I want to speak briefly on professional support for teachers, which is needed now more than ever. Teachers need additional support to provide quality education to the youth of Maine. And in the 2019 statewide census of community-based environmental learning, educators identified climate change education as their highest priority for professional development support. Further, the climate education standards outlined in the Next Generation Science Standards adopted in 2019 present an obstacle for teachers that do not have access to climate education training and resources. LD 1902 would remedy this shortcoming and improve training for teachers around the state. LD 1902 would also open Maine schools up to partnerships with experienced community organizations that would provide additional expertise and support for teachers. Community engagement is proven to help students retain and engage with subject matter, and these new partnerships will strengthen youth connection to their communities and provide a hands-on learning experience. Finally, equitable access to funding opportunities. As climate change becomes a more primary focus for our federal government and educational organizations, funding opportunities for climate education pursuits are rapidly growing. And Maine can only take advantage of those new funding opportunities if they have the resources and capacity to channel funds effectively. A pilot program such as the one established by LD 1902 would enable Maine schools to take advantage of funding programs and direct funding where it is needed most. For these reasons, we urge the committee to support the passage of this important climate education bill. And thank you so much for your consideration. Happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Thank you for your comments. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Representative Sampson, are you? No, I'm sorry. You're just stretching. Okay. Any other questions, members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. You as well.
Next we'll go to Leah Lowry, and she's with us. So proceed with your comments.
Good morning, esteemed members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee, and my name is Leah Lowry. I am here to urge you to vote and ought to pass for LD 1902. I'm the Director of Programs and Outreach for a national nonprofit that was created and based here in Maine, the Climate Initiative. The organization was born out of dynamic education programming that I helped co-create called the Gulf of Maine Field Studies. TCI educates, empowers youth to climate action, and we currently have our programming in over 29 states. That only speaks to the fact that there is a desire and a passion for this education. I did write a written testimony, and I don't want to read that here. Lots of people have said the same things that I actually had in my written testimony. So what I prefer to do is sort of talk just a brief moment. The Gulf of Maine Field Studies, we study changes both in the Gulf and the state of Maine are facing. And I can tell you that our students come to us with this knowledge. They get it on the internet, they get it through social media, but they're not getting it through at school. I think it's really important they face the enormity of this problem. Teachers know their subject matter and they know this subject matter, but they may not have the confidence or the subject or the curriculum to really address the topic on a local level. And I think that's really imperative. One of our students left the other day and said, I'm always down when I leave this class, and I felt really terrible. And I said, well, I'm so sorry. What are you down about? And she said, because this is the class that actually matters. This is where I can make a difference in my own community. So they are passionate, but they are overwhelmed and they are paralyzed by a global problem that they feel they can't enact any kind of local solutions. Enabling teachers to have access to curriculum will give students this experiential learning and give them the opportunity to feel empowered and be change agents in our communities. This intergenerational connection that allows for students to have a voice in their communities and allows teachers to be there, that conduit, is so valuable to all of our communities. People have said many times today that this is an investment in our future and an investment in our green economy. And I agree with all of those things. And you'll see my written testimony pretty much says that. The inevitable impacts that we're facing and our response to it are farther reaching than just our economy, though. We also want to have engaged, educated citizens and workers as we are trying to enforce new energy codes, support updating land use ordinances, and actually understanding the intricacies of our changing landscape and how that might affect how we develop it. I encourage you to see this as an opportunity for Maine to lead. We can inspire and educate and support the future leaders of our state. Maine, actually, I've heard said many times, we lose our youth to opportunities in other states. And this is an opportunity for Maine to retain our youth and make them the voices of our future. We have an opportunity for Maine to support their teachers and students and face this uncertain future. And we have an opportunity to be an example for the country and lead the nation in how to move forward. Lastly, I just want to leave with, Maine is warming faster than any other region in the contiguous United States, as well as the Gulf of Maine warming faster than any body of water its size. We are facing these issues now. I live in Arundel and regularly our district is flooded. So just want to let you know our students are concerned, our teachers are concerned, and the best thing Maine can do is support them in moving forward to create holistic communities.
Thank you, Ms. Lowry, for your comments. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, have a good day. And we are now going to move to Madison Shepherd. And do we, is he with us?
I was not able to find Ms. Shepherd, so we can move on to Melissa Dearborn.
Okay, great. So we'll go to Ms. Dearborn. Thank you. And you can proceed with your comments.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. I am Melissa Dearborn, an experienced educator and advocate with the Maine Unitarian Universalist State Advocacy Network, testifying in support of LD 1902. We are in a climate emergency, and the educators in Maine are asking for support in teaching climate science. They've been charged with meeting the next generation science standards, but these standards provide goals or desired outcomes, not curricula. The standards direct teachers to engage students in scientific behaviors and the analysis of real-world data. And the best way to experience science like this is through the community engagement that this act can foster and the professional development and opportunities to build relationships with local organizations. These meaningful learning experiences will increase interest in the sciences and prepare students for college and STEM careers. In the 9th grade, my daughter had a dynamic science teacher who sought her own grants to get students into the community. With the help of working scientists, this educator lit a fire, and my daughter learned not only how the natural world works, but how humans interact with the environment, who is most affected by environmental problems, and how to design solutions to live more sustainably. She is now an urban ecologist and works as a sustainability researcher for the city of New York. And I credit a prepared, well-supported educator with uncovering possibilities for her through engaged, community-based curriculum. The outcomes of enhanced climate education will support Maine Won't Wait, as many have said, and students may learn about green investing, how to plan for sea level rise, how climate change affects our working waterfronts. They might study renewable energy, green buildings, the green actions their own municipalities can do, and prepare for climate-related jobs, such as my daughter. LD 1902 is direct action to advance those Maine Won't Wait goals. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe in respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We value education and what it can do to help address climate change and work for a world where we may all live responsibly and sustainably. To support this interdependent web, we need to educate our youth to understand and appreciate the earth. And this requires a commitment to teach and learn about the impact of climate change. Our teachers deserve the support they're asking for so they may create experiences for their students who may in turn find solutions to problems in ways we haven't yet imagined. I urge you to vote ought to pass on LD 1902. Thank you.
And thank you for being with us, Ms. Dearborn. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Representative Sampson.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. My question for you is, I guess I'm kind of curious why the relevance of bringing up your church and your religion have anything to do with this bill. And can you help me rectify and reconcile that?
Well, because one of the principles of Unitarian Universalism is for us to understand the interdependence of everything, which involves our ecology, our environment, the way we move on the earth, the way we live and consume. And so that is part of our religious beliefs, which I feel are in direct accordance with this work and this kind of education for our young people.
So is this going to be promoting a religion?
No, that's not what I'm asking to do in my testimony. I'm using that as an example of a belief that I carry, that I feel very strongly about our environment and our connection to everything else in our environment. And so that's what drives me to support this work. And as an educator.
Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate it. Are there any other questions from members of the committee? And have a very nice day. And we will now move on to Michael Dixon. And Mr. Dixon, you can proceed.
Thank you. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and the rest of the committee. I'm here to testify in favor of this bill. A little bit about myself. I live in Auburn. I've lived here since, I've lived in this area of Maine since 1974. I'm very invested in Maine because I've had a career here as a psychologist and a school psychologist, and I also married and raised a family here. And I'm here to testify on behalf of myself and them. My wife is Carmen Dufresne. She's a retired 37-year teacher at the elementary school level in the Lewiston system. She specialized as much as she could by teaching as many science classes to as many classrooms as she could. She would trade off teaching social studies, which is also an important subject, in order to teach science in multiple classrooms or to multiple classes. Our daughters are Renee Frail. She's 32. She was born here. She lives and works in Maine. She's a pharmacist for Hannaford. She was educated in Maine public schools until she went to college at Husson to get her pharmacy degree. Our younger daughter is 28, and her name is is Marie Dufresne Dixon. She too was educated in public schools, although she stuck with public schools because she was also got a couple of degrees, one from UMO and the other from USM. And she's a nurse practitioner for again living in the Augusta area. I'm also here for our hope for grandchildren. That my wife really wants to come sooner than later, but they will get here when they get here. And finally, I'm here to testify on behalf of all Maine generations and Maine students. In my professional life, I was a school psychologist, so I have a very deep feeling for Maine students, and I think this is a great pilot program, and I'm hope that the committee will go full steam ahead with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dixon, for your comments, and thank you for being here. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, have a nice day.
Thank you.
We're now going to go to Nathan Broadus, and Nathan, you can proceed with your comments.
Thank you very much, Representative Brennan, Senator Rafferty, and esteemed members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. I serve as the coordinator of the Nature-Based Education Consortium, which is a statewide interdisciplinary and intergenerational network working to build equitable access to outdoor learning opportunities for all Maine youth. And I'm speaking to you today to encourage you to support LD 1902, resolved to establish a pilot program to encourage climate education in Maine public schools. In my role as coordinator, I'm privileged to work with youth leaders, educators, school administrators, and organizations from across the state. In the past several years, several key priorities have consistently resonated among the very diverse members of our network engaged in many roles across Maine's education system. At the very top of this list is improved access to interdisciplinary climate education. This doesn't surprise me or our network leaders much at all, because given its connection to the priorities of stakeholders, this makes a lot of sense. For students in our network, climate education is a key tool of empowerment, giving a sense of agency and hope in the face of ever-present and daunting challenge that climate change presents. For educators, climate education is engaging and multifaceted subject that can easily connect abstract concepts to real-world experience through project-based instruction. For school administrators, it's a ripe opportunity to provide for place-based learning that makes students more likely to stay in Maine and work in service of their community. For organizations, it's an opportunity for partnership with schools and for deepening ties with local youth and local communities. And for businesses, as you've heard here today, it's a connection to an impassioned and growing future workforce that wants to make a difference in the face of climate change, whatever their future career may be, whether it's in natural resources, green energy, agriculture, public health, science and research, or even just making beer. LD 1902 responds to these hopes and does so in a way that is data-informed and reflective of the needs expressed by Maine's educators and youth. In the 2019 Census of Community-Based Environmental Learning in Maine, climate education emerged as the most requested focus for professional development by surveyed educators. And at the same time, schools with community partnerships saw higher levels of subject mastery in their students. This bill is framed around both professional development and community partnerships. In a time when teachers are under unprecedented strain, additional support is essential. This bill ensures that that support will come in the form of additional training, but also in the form of external assistance from expert community organizations. Where educators have expressed challenges in meeting the climate science standards already in place in the Next Generation Science Standards, this bill helps fill a key gap that is rarely covered in pre-service training. Educators are emphatic that they do not want any additional mandates. This bill responds to that priority by directly supporting educators and schools only where it is most needed and most wanted. Additionally, creating a state grant program to support climate education professional development in Maine schools will enable under-resourced schools to tap into federal funds that are otherwise out of reach. Federal grant programs relating to climate and environmental education have large grant minimums that place them out of reach of schools without existing community partner relationships or the staff capacity to apply for funding. By providing an entry point for high-need school districts to develop community partnerships that can take on the burden of these grant applications, it opens the door for significant targeted federal grant support to come to the main schools that would benefit the most. LD 1902 clearly responds to widely shared needs and priorities of students and educators throughout the state. By funding a flexible grant program that allows schools and districts to decide how best to support themselves in providing essential climate education, we will foster the innovation necessary to meet the goals laid out in Maine's Climate Action Plan, Maine Won't Wait. So for these reasons and more, we as a network encourage you to vote ought to pass on LD 1902. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's what we're going to get to. Is any, thank you for your testimony, and are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much and have a nice day. We'll now move to Olivia Grissett, and please proceed with your comments.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, distinguished members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Olivia Grissett, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Maine Environmental Education Association. And MIA is a statewide nonprofit that's been working in Maine for 40 years. This is our 40th anniversary. And our goal is to advance environmental education, climate education, and outdoor learning for Maine youth, and to support educators who are doing that work. I did submit written testimony, and so many of the points in that testimony have already been made. So just to honor all your time, I'm going to kind of go off script and just make a few, emphasize a few points and not read my testimony today. The first thing I wanted to emphasize was around kind of the broad stakeholder process that informed the development of this policy. Our organization held Maine's first statewide climate education summit in June. It was a 2-week event engaging with educators, youth, business owners, government agency officials, school leadership from all across the state. And folks worked for a couple of weeks to identify the barriers to advancing climate education and then come up with innovative solutions. And much of the solutions and needs that were identified are being reflected in LD 1902. So our organization feels really strongly that good policy is rooted in those most impacted by the policy being part of, design development, and we're really grateful that their voices were heard, and Representative Bloom created this bill to move things forward that will really help meet their needs. So because of that stakeholder engagement process, we're really confident, and I urge you to support this piece of legislation. Secondly, investing in climate education is actually a really underinvested strategy for carbon reduction. There's a lot of research coming out right now that this is clearly good climate education is really effective. I think Anya was talking about that in her testimony. And if you would like, I can help provide more of that research to you when you're in your working group, if that would be helpful. Because Maine Won't Wait has really ambitious carbon reduction goals, and climate education is actually a really effective way to meet those goals. And finally, I do a lot of work at the federal level. Our association is the national affiliate that is related to that it sits in the national coalitions and the North American Association for Environmental Education. So we work on a lot of federal policy work and in coalitions at that level. And there is a lot of opportunity at the federal level, and there seems to be more in development. So we feel really strongly that if schools and community partnerships are working together now in Maine because of this program, they will have more opportunities in the future to access federal funding. One of the things that we know is that these federal grants are extremely competitive. It's really hard for small under-resourced districts to write for these types of federal grants and to manage these federal grants. But we do have community organizations in Maine that are capable of doing that. And if they have partnerships in place, they're going to be more competitive. So thank you very much for opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. And again, have a nice day. We will next go to Rob Wood. And Mr. Wood is with us. Please proceed.
Thank you so much, Representative Brennan, Senator Rafferty, and members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Rob Wood. I'm the Director of Government Relations and Climate Policy for the Nature Conservancy in Maine. We are a conservation organization that's been working in Maine for more than 60 years on land conservation, river and stream restoration, rebuilding groundfish populations in the Gulf of Maine, and then most recently, working with many partners to develop solutions to climate change. So we're an organization that's rooted in science. We're working with Maine communities on climate change and mitigation and adaptation. And for those reasons, TNC believes that addressing the climate crisis requires a clear understanding of the causes of climate change, its impacts on people and the environment in Maine and across the globe, and the ways that policymakers, communities, and individuals can act to create effective and equitable solutions. This starts with our public education system. There's no more important foundation for climate change education. As you've heard, that's why Maine's 4-year climate action plan calls for the state to develop enhanced educational opportunities for climate science in Maine's public schools. And LD 1902 takes a really essential first step in that direction. In recent decades and years, Maine has made many important investments in climate change action, ranging from establishing the Efficiency Maine Trust more than a decade ago to supporting the build out of solar energy, to funding climate resilience projects in Maine municipalities. LD 1902 seeks to make an equally critical investment in Maine's teachers and our next generation of climate stewards. Acting on climate change requires looking toward the future, and this bill makes a direct investment in the people who will shape that future. TNC especially appreciates that this bill envisions professional development partnerships between schools and community-based nonprofit organizations. Organizations based in our towns and cities near the schools where they are working will bring local context and a deep understanding of the way climate change is impacting our communities. TNC also strongly supports prioritizing grants for schools and communities historically underserved by climate education. Uneven climate education has contributed to the creation of climate solutions that have not centered the perspectives of historically underserved communities, and this provision will take a step toward ensuring equitable participation in developing solutions in the future. Most of all, we support this bill because, as you've heard, it originates from a clear need identified by Maine's students and their teachers. TNC has had the privilege of collaborating with teachers and students for several years as a member of the Nature-Based Education Consortium. And we've heard firsthand that educators need more support to teach about climate change and that students are graduating from Maine's high schools feeling underprepared to confront and address one of the biggest challenges they'll face in their lifetimes. And simply put, LD 1902 will address this issue head on. So we urge you to vote ought to pass on LD 1902 and thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. We appreciate your comments. Are there any questions of Mr. Wood? Seeing none, thank you. And we will now move to Roberta Hill. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you for being with us, and you now have the floor.
Thank you. And Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Roberta Hill, and I am testifying today as a private citizen from my home in Buckfield, Maine. I am urging you to support LD 1902. I am an aquatic ecologist by profession and have been an environmental educator in the state of Maine for the past 35 years. I've worked with learners of all ages, both inside and outside the public school system. Despite the fact, I want to start with the urgency of the problem. Others have spoken so well about the details of the bill itself. Despite the fact that the US has not officially declared it as other countries, including our neighbors to the north, have done, it is clear we're in a climate emergency. This past August, the United Nations International Panel on Climate Change produced its much anticipated sixth assessment report. And that report was prepared by 234 scientists working from around the world, from 66 countries. And it drew upon the latest advances in climate science, while highlighting and synthesizing the most current findings from a wide range of scientific disciplines. Representing as it did a broad consensus, it is a report that's inherently conservative. Still, the findings were dire. Quote, in 2019, atmospheric CO2 concentrations on Earth were higher than any time in the last 2 million years. And concentrations of methane and nitrous oxide, two very powerful greenhouse gases, that's my comment, were higher than any time in the last 800,000 years. The report goes on to document how the resulting human-induced climate change is not only causing weather and climate extremes in every region of the globe, but it is altering the intricate balance of the Earth's entire climate system. And to be clear, when we're saying the Earth's entire climate system, we're talking about the Earth's basic life support system. In kind of reply to this report, UN Secretary Antonio Guterres said, "We're in a code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening, the evidence is irrefutable. And the only way to prevent climate catastrophe is by urgently stepping up our efforts and pursuing our most ambitious path." And I have to say that I'm very proud. I find that information rather devastating, but I'm very proud to live in a state where we are indeed pursuing a very ambitious path through our climate action plan. Maine can't wait. And of course, part of that path, oops, time, really? 3 minutes? Okay, yeah.
You can just, Ms. Hill, you can just wrap up. That's okay.
I just wanted, if I could just say, just wrap up, would that be okay? So our children and our grandchildren are our future. They're inheriting a world with greater problems than humanity's ever known. I believe it's our duty as parents, grandparents, teachers, decision makers, and fellow human beings to provide our children with the information they need to fully understand and effectively respond to the challenges at hand. And I urge you to support LD 1902. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Hill. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, have a nice day, and we'll now move to Roger Stevenson. And Mr. Stevenson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and other distinguished members of the committee. My name is Roger Stevenson. I'm Regional Director for Advocacy for the Union of Concerned Scientists Climate and Energy Program. I offer written testimony in support of LD 1902 on behalf of the organization. UCS puts rigorous independent science to work to solve our planet's most pressing problems, and we combine technical analysis and effective advocacy to create practical solutions for a healthy, safe, and sustainable future. We have more than 500,000 supporters nationwide, including more than 2,500 here in Maine. When Maine's current science and engineering standards were signed into law in 2019, Maine adopted the next generation science standards. And while those standards include climate change content, expert reviewers from the National Science for Science Education explicitly caution that the standards fail to provide a stronger connection between climate change impact and what we can do in terms of energy and sustainability to mitigate against those risks. I am the husband of an educator, a father of an educator who have taught and are teaching in New Hampshire and Maine. And I know full well the resources that they put in and the resources that they need to be good educators. And I'm very proud of both my wife and my daughter. I want to go back to what Representative McRae said about generalists. Miss Pitaluga was an elementary school teacher of mine more than 50 years ago, and she's the teacher that set me on the path of science. And it was through junior high school and high school that I took what I learned from my grade school teacher and led me on this path. So to be able to connect local organizations such as Maine Audubon, such as MIA, and other organizations with educators to give them the tools they need to confidently and assertively educate their students about these issues is very, very important. Lastly, I want to say that the miseducation of children has been intentional when it comes to climate change. There is an abundance of education programs in public schools that are funded by fossil fuel interests, and New England is not immune. The utilities Eversource and National Grid distributed a booklet called Natural Gas is Your Invisible Friend to teachers and principals in hundreds of area public schools. And nowhere in that 15-page student workbook is there mention of the connection between gas combustion and climate change. Scientific literacy is essential as Maine people participate in the development of policies and practices necessary to slow global warming and implementation of the Maine Climate Action Plan. We have a responsibility to honor scientific literacy within our public schools, and students must be prepared for a world they'll inherit as adults. The intent of LD 1902 is consistent with the Maine Department of Education's mission and strategic priorities. And for these reasons, UCS urges this committee to pass LD 1902. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stevenson. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, have a good day. And we'll now go to Sarah Fitzpatrick.
I did not see her on the call. We can move on to the next name.
Okay, so then I have Seal Rosignol. Eli, do we have the next speaker?
Should be moving over now.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I was not a panelist, so I just got switched over.
Okay, good morning, and you have the floor, so proceed.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Seal Rosignol, and I am the Education and Programming Coordinator at CB, Center for an Ecology-Based Economy, based over in the Western Foothills here in Norway. I'm here to offer our support for the passing of LD 1902. CB's mission is to engage the community in addressing the climate emergency. And while there are many pieces that need to happen and are currently happening to mitigate and adapt to the climate crisis, we need to ensure that we are simultaneously addressing our education system. Having been an educator for 25 years and now also a parent, I am deeply invested in providing the resources and support teachers need to address this issue with their students. There are ways for any child, no matter the age, to learn about climate and still feel hopeful for the future while also proud of the headway that has already been made. The more localized we can make this information, the more connection students will feel. When we can tie knowledge to places we know and care about, we cultivate engaged citizens. And when we support those charged with educating the minds and hearts of those citizens, we invest in and catalyze the leaders that Maine and the world need for the future. CB is an example of one of the many community organizations in Maine ready to take on this task. Already having built strong ties to our local school system, the Oxford Hills School District, and also with statewide networks focusing on climate, we would be well positioned to do the work proposed by this bill. Having the funding to support the work would allow us, our partners, and similar organizations to collaborate on interdisciplinary approaches to meeting the NGSS standards on climate, as well as integrate climate justice into professional development for educators. This bill creates opportunity for exactly the kind of collaborative work that is the path forward to educating our students about climate change and climate justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being with us. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, and again, have a nice day. At this point, we have 3 remaining speakers who are speaking in favor, and then we have 1 person signed up to speak neither for nor against. So we will now go to Sophie Schul, who will be our next speaker. Sophie, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Sophie, and I'm a resident of Brunswick, Maine. I'm here to support LD 1902. I recently graduated from Shepherd's High School in Portland, and though it was not a public school education, I still think that what I learned applies to all schools. As a president of my high school's environmental action team, it was difficult to get support for club events for most students. Many students I know feel that it is too late to do anything or hold the privileged belief that the consequences of climate change won't matter to them. It is so important to me that students receive a proper education about climate change and particularly climate justice. Students need to understand that just because they don't feel immediately affected, other communities are. It is easy to fall into the trap of feeling that there is nothing a single person can do, especially when you're a teenager. But the focus on community engagement in LD 1902 provides a framework for real, tangible action so that students can feel like they're part of the solution. One of the biggest ways that my environmental action team increased involvement was by planning volunteer days at a nonprofit farm called Growing to Give in Brunswick. The farm donates all their produce to local food pantries, so students felt that they were actually making a difference. This type of community partnership benefits everyone involved. Students' passion and commitments begin with the education they receive. To truly inspire students, teachers need professional development to effectively teach about climate change and climate justice. This bill is a way to reach younger students across the state and to ignite passion for working against climate change in every generation. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us today. And I see that Senator Daughtry has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to quickly violate our committee rules and just say, lovely to see you, Sophie, and always great to see a student from Brunswick. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Good to see you as well.
Well, you must be very special if Senator Daughtry is willing to break the committee rules in order to acknowledge you. But again, thank you for being here. We appreciate your comments. We're next going to Stephanie Perkins, and I see that we have you here. So the floor is yours, and please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, distinguished members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Stephanie Perkins of Harmony, Maine, and I am the Piscataquis County Youth Education Coordinator for the Appalachian Mountain Club. I'm here to express my support of LD 1902. This bill provides much needed support to Maine educators to meet next generation science standards and serve their students in a changing world. AMC's Maine Woods Initiative is a comprehensive effort to improve the quality of life in the 100-mile wilderness region through economic development, ecological protection, community partnerships, and environmental education. Since 2012, AMC has become a committed partner with local teachers, schools, and other youth providers to engage K-12 students from Piscataquis County in meaningful outdoor environmental education experiences that enhance academic achievement and tie into Maine's curriculum frameworks. AMC began our Maine Woods Community Youth and Environment Program to help meet the need for science education. According to a 2018-2019 district report card from Penquis Valley High School, one of our partners, only 36.5% of all 8th graders had scored at or above state expectations on science, and by high school, that percentage had dropped to 28.1%. Despite residents' proximity to the spectacular 100-mile wilderness, many Piscataquis County students have little experience connecting with the area's unique natural resources. Today's youth, future stewards of the environment, must develop a genuine connection to the natural world, coupled with a fact-based understanding of the natural environment and issues concerning resource use, specifically climate change. Because this region's history and economic health hinge in part upon local residents' active engagement with and understanding of the outdoors and opportunities of a natural resource-based economy, the disconnect between youth and nature has significant implications for the region's future. As a person who works with teachers, it's clear to me that quality climate education and support for our teachers needs to happen now. Over half of the programs that were requested this past fall semester by teachers were for climate change, with our AMC educators reaching over 200 students between 5th and 12th grade with our climate change curriculum in Piscataquis County. Using an investigative approach and local data, students were able to look at evidence of changing climate in Maine and what this means for our ecosystems, economies, public health, and more as temperatures warm, winters shorten, and snowpack decreases. Through this local place-based approach, We saw an increase in students' understanding of climate change and how humans impact it, as well as an increase in their desire to make a difference in their own local communities. While funding professional development on climate change, the bill also funds partnerships between schools and local community organizations so that more meaningful partnerships like the AMCs in Piscataquis County can occur statewide. We encourage you to ensure students elsewhere in Maine can have access to similar opportunities. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good. Thank you very much. We appreciate your being here and we appreciate your comments. Are there any questions at this point by members of the committee? Seeing none. Again, thank you very much. Have a nice day. And we will now go to Tom Berry, who at least right now is the last person who will speak in favor of this bill. Mr. Berry, proceed.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Can
you hear me?
If you could get a little louder, it might be helpful, but we could make do.
I often have a bad connection. I'll just have to speak really loudly, I guess. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Tom Berry from Kennebunk, and I volunteer with Citizens Climate Lobby and with the Planeteers of Southern Maine. And I'm here to express my strong support for LD 1902. I recently retired as a speech pathologist after 28 years in public schools, and I was really excited to learn about LD 1902. Others before me have spoken very eloquently and better than I ever could about the key aspects of this bill, the funding and the developing community partnerships. I would just, I guess, speak to something I think we all feel on a more personal level. I was most recently in Mildred Day School, which is a lower elementary school in Kennebunk, and just working with the children there, I couldn't help but just frequently feel like wondering what kind of future is going to be, are they going to experience going forward, and that it's just our absolute responsibility to provide our students with the tools that they're going to need to grapple with the increasing changes that are going to just be experienced by everyone. So I would just encourage the committee to support this bill and move it forward. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, again, thank you for being with us and have a nice day. And I'd ask Mr. Murphy, do we have anybody else to speak in favor of the bill?
There are a number of individuals who have registered after the point that we decided as a cutoff and that we have as policy as a cutoff. Signed up based on the list that we started with, we do not.
Okay. How many people do we have? Are these people all speaking in favor?
Yes.
Okay. And how many do we have?
I don't have a total tally. I apologize. And it looks like most of them are not in the call. If those of you in the attendees list, if you could raise your hand if you are here still to testify on LD 1902, that would be appreciated. Thank you. I am not seeing any hands go up, so I think we are
okay. We're okay
set.
Then.
Yes.
All right. And again, anybody can always submit written testimony between now and the work session, and we will try to pay attention to those comments as well. So, Mr. Murphy, according to the printout, I have Courtney Blolan, who is going to speak neither for nor against.
I do not see Courtney Blolan in the call.
Okay. So we've exhausted the list of those people speaking in favor. We have nobody speaking against, and we have nobody speaking neither for nor against. So that all being said, unless there are any additional comments from members of the committee, I will officially close the public hearing on LD 1902 And at least at this point, the work session is scheduled, I believe, for next Tuesday. But there'll be official notification about the work session. They'll be going out later this week. So at this point, Senator Rafferty, I would turn the gavel over to you, and you can pick up on LD 1870. And it looks to me like we probably have time to do LD 1870 and then probably take a break after that bill for a short lunch break at noontime.
Excuse me. Thank you, Representative Brennan. I appreciate you handling the testimony for and the hearing for LD 1902. At this point, so we're going to move on. We do have 1870, 1880, and 1893 to go. And again, we'll do the best we can in judging our time frame. So at this point, I would like to open the public hearing on 1870, which is an act regarding the Maine School Safety Center. And I know that we have some folks here to testify. First up in that area, I believe, is Representative Corey of Wyndham. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Eli.
Just a point of order before we begin. I do have Representative McCray is in a different committee working to get him back to testify for this bill as well. Thank you.
So if I'll start with Representative Corey, and then you let me know, or I should see when Representative McCray is back, and we'll put him back in order. Thank you very much for that. I'm trying to follow both the list as well, but all right. So Representative Corey, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Patrick Roy. I represent the good people of House District 25, which is part of Wyndham. I'm here today to present and speak in support of LD 1870, an act regarding the Maine School Safety Center. In 2019, I sponsored a resolve that directed the Department of Education to study and make recommendations for the establishment of a Maine School Safety Center. Fortunately, we found ourselves working on parallel tracks, so the passage of the resolve made sense. During implementation, the DOE presented an interim and final report to this committee of what that school safety center would look like. With that, 2 experts were hired to conduct a comprehensive needs assessment, build an implementation plan, and lead the Maine School Safety Center. From there, a strategic plan was created to ensure the center would philosophically and operationally conduct its work using a preventative and public health model to address systemic causes of school violence. There will be people here today that can tell you much more about the Maine School Safety Center than I can, and their multidisciplinary team approach, partnerships, and their grant writing and training successes. I'm not going to steal their show. LD 1870 cleans up language and better defines in statute the purposes, collaborative efforts, staffing, and provided services of the Maine School Safety Center. The Maine School Safety Center sets the standards for safety and security in Maine schools. Passage of this bill puts their important work in statute, ensuring their work continues. I urge you to vote in support of LD 1870, and with that, I'll take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Millette has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Representative Corey. I apologize if you said this earlier, or I'm having a little bit of an issue with my sound. Have you worked with the department and collaborated with the department on this bill?
Yes, this is actually their bill.
Okay.
So
I thought that was the case, but I wasn't too sure.
the bill. They wanted to get into statute. Like, I think it was funny when we initially did the first bill, I sort of had a resolve, and they had called me in, and they're like, so what exactly do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't want to be prescriptive in any way. I want you guys to lead your own process, on something like this and come up with what it looks like. I'm not the education and security expert. They certainly are. So, I'm letting them lead the way on all of this, and I certainly support them in their mission. And they've done an awesome job with it. I can say from, the reports to, I don't know if the committee has had a chance to go over and look at their website and look at their hires and everything else. And then even the grants that they've gotten to do this, they got an initial grant that allowed us to do this without a fiscal note. And my understanding is they recently got another grant. So they're hopping, they're doing a good job. There was also, I think, positions that this committee probably saw that were in the budget that got funded as well. So it's exciting but they're in charge. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of Representative Corey, folks, at this time? And I'm not seeing Representative McCray back yet. And Eli, I'm trying to find my list again. I think we have, oh boy, I'm telling you. I can't, of course. I can't find my list of testimony right now. Somehow it's on multiple screens going here and I'm losing it.
Well, we have Representative McCray.
Yeah.
And then we have Eric Waddle.
Thank you.
Representative McCray is here.
I suspect Jonathan Shapiro may be here from the department as well.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Representative McCray.
I'm here. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. I am Representative Dave McCray, and I represent House District 148 in Central Aroostook County. I have lived my life in the great little town of Fort Fairfield, and I am here to speak in support of LD 1870, an act regarding the Maine School Safety Center. I'll be brief. The purpose of this bill, LD 1870, is to expand the scope and role of the Maine School Safety Center by making it more of a community center, as well as, or community-centered, I guess, either way, as well as to make the overall school climate not only safer, but also more well-equipped to handle today's emergencies and concerns. As a former teacher and someone who has worked in the Maine school system in a variety of capacities throughout my life, I believe that the measures outlined in this bill will significantly improve the safety and well-being of students in our great state of Maine. The bill clearly delineates the purposes of the center while demonstrating collaboration efforts among the various stakeholders. The bill further supports adequate staffing, specifically so that the center can deliver on the various services and programs that have become increasingly necessary in order to foster a safe and meaningful educational environment for students and their community. I thank you for your time, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Representative. Do you have any questions of Representative McCray at this time? Seeing none, I will, I'm trying to navigate back and forth here, but I think on my list I had John Sapero and Stephen Bailey.
Thank you.
Senator, we also have Catherine Smith, who is in the call at this time.
All right, thank you. We can, if Catherine is ready to go, well, thank you, Catherine. Sorry for the confusion there.
That's okay. Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Catherine Smith. I'm a nationally certified school psychologist, and I'm pleased to be here today to testify in support of LD 1870, an act regarding the Maine School Safety Center. I've been a school psychologist in Maine for 23 years, the last 12 years in the Westbrook School Department. For the last 2 years, our district has been fortunate to work closely with the Maine School Safety Center as participants in a pilot program establishing comprehensive threat assessment protocols. As you can imagine, having a consistent, comprehensive, and informed response to all types of threats in our schools, from less serious, transient threats to very serious threats, is of utmost importance for maintaining the safety of all students and staff. The specific threat assessment program is called the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines, also known as CSTAG. It's a threat assessment model based on violence prevention and interventions. It is equitable in its delivery and solution focused. It's designed to not only guide school teams through specific steps in responding to threats, but to ultimately reduce suspensions and expulsions. It sets up multidisciplinary teams in every school that can be quickly pulled together to thoughtfully respond to any type of threat. This is important to ensure that difficult, often emotional threat assessments decisions do not fall on the shoulders of one or two individuals. It involved extensive training in both how to follow the protocols and how to utilize the accompanying software program designed to assist in documenting cases and steps taken in response to threats. So far, the Maine School Safety Center has provided this extensive training to 25 members of our school staff, including administrators, school psychologists, social workers, guidance counselors, and resource officers, all the members of our threat assessment teams. They've literally been there every step of the way as we've navigated and adopted this new way of responding to threats made in our district, providing ongoing and prompt response. We've reached out to the Maine School Safety Center on a number of occasions with questions regarding individual cases or software problems, and they have continued to provide us with guidance and support. All of this has been provided at no cost to our district. As with any change or new way of doing something, there's been a learning curve, but I'm happy to report that we are up and running. Feedback from our staff has been positive, and team members have shared that they feel relieved at having a comprehensive and consistent threat assessment protocols. Not to mention that because this new threat assessment system came from the Maine School Safety Center as part of the Department of Education, it had immediate buy-in. It had immediate credibility because of where it came from. None of this would have been possible without the Maine School Safety Center. Having them in our back pocket, so to speak, has been very reassuring. It is an invaluable resource for our district, as I'm sure it has been for many other districts in our state. The Maine School Safety Center is a vital resource for our schools in the state of Maine, particularly with regard to coordinating consistent and informed responses to threats in schools. For these reasons, and without hesitation, the Maine School Safety Center should be codified into law. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I have a question from Representative Salisbury.
Sure.
Thanks so much, Catherine, for being here and for representing Westbrook. I certainly appreciate that. And to ask you a question would be, wouldn't you agree that this would be a great bill for us to move forward and learn more about? I'm just following the rules of my committee, so I have to ask you a question.
Yes, absolutely. It would not only be, it's so important for all the reasons that I mentioned. Sadly, threats in schools are not going away anytime soon. This is a very important office to coordinate all of this and to be a resource for us schools. We literally call them and they promptly respond and consult with us. And it's very reassuring and helpful.
Great, thank you very much.
And thank you, Representative, as well. Any other questions, folks? Not seeing any. Next up, I have, and I'll go in this order. I wrote Mr. John Shapiro, followed by Stephen Bailey, please.
Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. I am Jonathan Shapiro, the director of the Maine School Safety Center, and I am pleased to be here today to testify in support of LD 1870, an act regarding the Maine School Safety Center to codify the center into law. The development of the Maine School Safety Center was a result of a legislative resolve in 2019, which was prior to the pandemic. The department was tasked with researching the practicality and the need of creating a school safety center for Maine. The research led to the conclusion that Maine schools could greatly benefit from the implementation of a school safety center. Maine would also be following a growing national trend, as many other states implemented their own school safety centers. The most current estimate is that 43 states have an organization that functions as a school safety center. The development of a permanent school safety center enhances Maine's ability to collaborate on a national level with other state centers and become part of a community of practice for school safety. In less than 2 years, Maine School Safety Center has often led discussions on school safety and been called upon by other centers for advice, guidance, and information on the Maine model of school safety. We believe the national interest in our work is directly tied to the Maine School Safety Center's preventative and public health model that uses a whole school approach to school safety. More specifically, focusing on building a strong sense of community with meaningful relationships with an appropriate placement of traditional safety measures to support the foundational premise of first building a culture of safety and inclusion. To accomplish this, we work closely with our partners in the Office of School and Student Supports in implementing this philosophy to school safety and to further support our 4 operational pillars. We approach school safety from a systemic approach, a pragmatic approach. We urge a culture of safety and inclusion, and in all things school safety, we urge collaboration. The Maine School Safety is committed to advocating for a strong social fabric within the school community with focused attention on addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our belief is any tear in the social fabric of a school community increases the risk to overall safety of that school. The Maine School Safety Center works diligently to facilitate an infrastructure for school safety in Maine by working with our local, county, state, and federal stakeholders. Our efforts have paid many dividends for school safety by facilitating relationships, resources, and support of our schools by bringing stakeholders together in collaboration, focusing on the safety of our schools. Indeed, we have found that our ability to bring many different domains involved in school safety together is an invaluable benefit to our school community and their effort to assure a safe and secure environment for their students. The center offers several lanes of service to our schools. All our services are free to our schools and for school safety stakeholders. The primary role of the center is to provide emergency operation planning and safety training, technical support, and guidance to our schools. A convenient one-stop shop for our schools on issues concerning school safety. Our team consists of subject matter experts who are well respected in their field and provide a high caliber service to our schools to assist them in making their school community as safe as possible. The Maine School Safety Center constitutes a multidisciplinary team mirroring the necessity of collaboration to our schools, meaning school safety is not the responsibility of any one person or single school, but of all stakeholders. Many lenses through which to view school safety leads to better emergency plans, better safety plan operations, and improved safety at every level. The Maine School Safety Center partners with schools and school administrative units to draw upon the expertise of these stakeholders and evidence-based practices to support their efforts to create safe and secure environments for their students. The center has partnered with the Maine Criminal Justice Academy to facilitate the enactment of LD 1040, providing diversity, equity, and inclusion training to school resource officers and law enforcement in general. We've also worked with the Maine Criminal Justice Academy to develop their SRO certification program, providing instruction to SROs in social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, emotional intelligence, developmentally appropriate interactions with youth, restorative justice, diversity and equity, teen brain development, and many other relevant topics to this unique youth demographic. The center strives to support local decision-making on whether or not to implement an SRO program by providing best practices training to ensure well-informed decisions can be made at a best that a best practices program can be instituted, thereby furthering the school's effort to improve safety for their school community. The Maine School Safety Center also provides training for all law enforcement in these same topics, so that in a case where a local decision is not to implement a school resource officer program, the responding officer has a prerequisite training to interact with the students in a developmentally appropriate manner. The Maine School Safety Center has also partnered with the Maine Community College System to develop a school emergency planning education program, including a school safety specialist program. This program will train school staff and school safety stakeholders in all things related to school safety. Over time, this training will increase the ability of school staff to review their surroundings through a safety lens and greatly enhance the school's ability to develop, implement, and maintain best practice safety protocols and plans. The advent of the COVID pandemic immediately demonstrated both the need and the value of Maine having a school safety center for our schools. The center supported our schools by providing remote trainings for schools on numerous topics, ranging from operational planning to supporting student mental health and attendance. The center also worked collaboratively with numerous state and federal partners to develop and implement a personal protective equipment procurement and distribution program to our schools. To date, we have provided over 8.5 million pieces of PPE to our schools. This effort was a much needed service at just the right time and was carried out with great success for protection of our school communities. During this time, the Maine School Safety Center also served as a resource to the Department of Education at large regarding emergency operation planning, projected needs, and continuity planning that focuses on delivering essential services while continuing to address the ongoing crisis. Also of note is the fact that the center has maintained a consistent presence in the Maine Emergency Management Agency's Emergency Operations Center as a direct conduit of information and collaboration between the two agencies. To date, the Maine School Safety Center has partnered with more than 20 organizations to accomplish the following. We've conducted more than 55 trainings for our schools. We've trained over 2,000 persons, school staff, and school safety stakeholders. We've trained 663 total schools. To date, we've trained over 500 school staff and safety stakeholders in behavioral threat assessment. And all of this, and for all of these trainings, our overall satisfaction was a score of 4.6 out of 5, or 92% very satisfied. We provided restorative practices training to the field. We were the primary provider of training at the School Safety Summit. And we have most recently secured a 3-year, $2 million BJA STOP grant for behavioral threat assessment and suicide awareness and prevention. We've also developed several advisory committees for our behavioral threat assessment and training, our training program to assure community input and responsiveness. We partnered with the Maine Community College System to develop Maine School Emergency Management training program, and we've developed a webpage as a resource hub for the field. As I've already mentioned, we developed a PPE procurement program where we've delivered 8.5 million items of PPE to our schools. In conclusion, the Maine School Safety Center has proven to be an essential resource to our schools for school safety. Our unique team of experts with their long histories in the field of school safety, public safety, mental health, and their important stakeholder relationships has led to the Maine School Safety Center to become a well-respected and crucial resource for the safety of our schools. It is our desire for the Maine School Safety Center to be codified into law to assure this critical service is guaranteed for the future safety of our schools. For this reason, the Department of Education is in support of LD 1870, an act regarding the Maine School Safety Center. I'd be happy to answer questions the committee may have, and I will be available for the work sessions on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have a hand up from Senator Woodson with a question.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Shapiro, I apologize. I'm not familiar with you. Certainly sounds like you've been busy. Can you give me a brief background of your profession or what you've done?
Sure. I'm a career law enforcement professional. I spent 29 years in the Maine State Police, serving predominantly in Southern Maine. I specialized in juvenile mental health, created several programs regarding restorative practices and improved police response to juveniles in crisis with mental health crises. I also partnered throughout my career with Maine Emergency Management Agency and local and county emergency management agencies, working with them actually right after Columbine quite closely in developing school safety plans and school safety in general. I've retired from the Maine State Police in 2018 after, as I said, a 29-year career. I was a rural patrol trooper, K-9 handler, troop detective, homicide detective, and a field supervisor. After my retirement, I worked for 2 years with the American Red Cross as their regional disaster officer in charge of the state of Maine's Red Cross's response to disaster in the state of Maine. And then I was fortunate enough to secure the position with the Department of Education and lead a great team for Maine school safety.
Oh, thank you very much.
Any other questions, folks? Not seeing anything, any other questions. Thank you for your testimony, and we look forward to you joining us for our work session. Have a nice day. Next up is Stephen Bailey, and Stephen will be followed by Catherine Wilson, please.
Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. I am not Stephen Bailey. I am Eileen King, the Deputy Executive Director of Maine School Management Association, testifying on behalf of the legislative committees of the Maine School Boards Association and the Maine School Superintendents Association in strong support of LD 1870. The language in this bill delineates the center's purpose and the services it offers. As you are well aware, the concept of safety in schools isn't confined to preventing the rare occurrence of a shooter on school grounds. It's about the creation of an environment where students feel safe and are not bullied by their peers. Also critical is the attention paid to a student's mental health to prevent self-harm or harm to others, a focus that has been a priority during the pandemic. As school leaders, we know what the team in the Maine School Safety Center offers to schools and how important it can be to the student we serve. The Safety Center has provided valuable training to resource officers and a wider audience of people working in our schools on keeping students and staff safe. One caring adult whom a student can trust and turn to when something is going wrong in their life can make all the difference. The goal of the center's work is to prevent youth violence, support a positive school climate, do threat assessments to determine if someone in the school poses a threat to the school community, which allows for a proactive approach and help identify students who may also consider self-harm. Keeping students safe is our first priority as school leaders. Support from the School Safety Center, the staff they have trained, and the SROs in the fields help us meet that responsibility, an obligation that is always top of mind. This bill underscores the importance of the Maine School Safety Center and the people in its schools it supports. We urge its passage. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. King. Any questions, folks, at this time? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony and your continued work with us. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Next up is Catherine Wilson, and Catherine will be followed by Eric Waddle and Michael Dixon.
Thank you so much. What a privilege to be able to speak to you all. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Catherine Ann Wilson. I am the founder of a nonprofit started back in 2015, Stop Trafficking US. I am pleased to testify in support of LD 1870, an act regarding the Maine School Safety Center. My organization first partnered with MSSC in March 2021 to organize a training for educators, social workers, law enforcement personnel to identify and address issues of sexual abuse and exploitation. While this issue is always a great concern, the risk to young people increased significantly during the pandemic when many schools were offering instruction remotely, thus removing children from their supports at school. It was evident to all of us in working to keep our children safe that we needed to act quickly to provide additional training and support to recognize the signs of abuse and exploitation in order to intervene. For instance, being able to identify abuse via Zoom was a whole thing that we had never had to work with before. The MSSC quickly mobilized their partners and were able to bring high caliber training to more than 690 people over the course of 3 days. Their willingness to think outside of the box for the highest good of our community was not a normal protocol within most organizations, never mind those governed by federal and state. Even so, they chose to do what was of the greatest good for our community versus the norm, led to a massive educational event with participants exclaiming that it was the best educational experience in my 25 years in social work. This was one of many, a sentiment communicated repeatedly over the 3-day webinar. The MSSC is so committed to issues of school safety and is adept at overcoming barriers by working diligently to develop and maintain partnership with key stakeholders. It is without reservation that I support the MSSC and their codification into law to assure their continued valuable work that greatly benefits our schools, students, and school safety stakeholders. I look forward to continued partnership with the MSSC to address issues of safety for our Maine children. And a side note before any possible questions is I was first abused by a school administrator in Florida in first grade, bullied horribly through middle school, became a runaway, just the whole cause and effect. I believe that if we would have had this sort of organization back when I was going to school, me and tens of thousands of other children would possibly be alive today and not going down that rabbit hole. This is such an important part of our community. We have to keep it going. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions at this time, folks, for Ms. Wilson? Seeing none, again, thank you for your work as well as your testimony with us here today. You have a good afternoon. Next up is Eric Waddle, and I do have a Michael Dixon on my list as well.
Senator Rafferty, both of those individuals are not in the call at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other folks that are waiting, Eli?
Not that I can see.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So seeing that we have no other folks here to testify, I am going to call the public hearing on LD 1870 to a close. Pending our conversations prior to our hearings, I think we'll take a short break and return for our final 2 public hearings following 30-minute lunch break. I have 10 minutes till noon, so 12:20, folks, if we could come back and finish up. Prior to leaving, keep in mind that you want to do 2 things. A, mute your microphone, and B, I would stop my video. I would make both those recommendations as the committee screen will stay live. Thank you. See you shortly.
Oh, I haven't done that, have I? Nope. I said I was gonna do.
Representative McCray,
Yes.
you have been very busy this morning.
I've never had a morning like it. I mean, I don't actually have a bill that originated this session under my name, but I've got, it seems almost too many that I've agreed to co-sponsor. And with no bills of my own, I'm trying to get around and be a good co-sponsor. So
Yeah.
I had 5 of those today.
And you didn't have to be in inland and fisheries today, did you?
No, ACF. And I'm trying to attend that as necessary also. So
Okay.
it's
And
been,
has the schedule that we've had in education conflicted much with your other committee?
well, they meet Tuesday, Thursday. So yeah.
Okay, because you're the only person we have in the House that serves on another committee.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I
on
should do-
the education committee.
yeah, I should do something about that.
Representative Brennan,
Yeah.
I
Yes.
wanted to, I wanted to apologize to the committee for having my video off. I was at the eye specialist this morning and had some injections and my eyes are reacting pretty badly. So that's why I've had my video off.
That's absolutely nothing to apologize for. That's a
Okay.
smart thing to do.
I just
And
wanted you to know.
Is it getting better, Sheila?
It's a little bit better right now, but they're pretty sore. I usually don't have that happen, but this time it's uncomfortable. So having the video off has helped, and I just
Right.
wanted you to know why.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And normally, I think having an injection in your eye would kind of, for most people, the whole day would be gone. So thank you for staying with us.
Okay, thanks.
And Jan, how are you doing? Wait,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm still having computer issues. I apologize also. It's quite a pain. Other than that, I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
well, I was going to say it's extraordinarily rare to find somebody that has their glasses match their scarf. So
I was gonna ask which came first.
yeah, if I tried to get my glasses to match my ties, I'd be in big trouble. So it's nice. And Eli, how are things going for you this morning? We've been a little bit
Things are going well. We remain live on YouTube and are ready to go
I
whenever.
understand that. That's why we're just exchanging pleasantries and not
Absolutely.
Talking any substance.
Yep. Things are going smoothly here. We're ready to go whenever the chairs so deem it.
Okay, great.
I think we have 1, 2. We only have 6. Here we go. We have enough. All right. Well, welcome back. And again, folks, this is the Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Joe Rafferty, and we're going to continue with our public hearings. We have 2 public hearings remaining for this afternoon. And the first is LD 1880, and that'll be followed up by LD 1893. So
And Senator Rafferty, did you see the note from Hillary about the university said they had submitted written testimony on 1880. They were not prepared. They didn't sign up to speak, but they would be available if people had questions.
okay, thank you.
Which normally we wouldn't do in a public hearing anyway, you know.
Right. Well, in any case, I have been shuffling back and forth between my computer and iPad, and I've got so many windows open, I just need to close them. But in any case, thank you for that. So anything else, we'll get the hearing going. And so I'll open the hearing on LD 1880. And as I said, that is an act to provide textbook cost assistance for high school students enrolled in early college courses. And I believe Representative O'Neill. Oh, I've lost my list again. Representative O'Neill?
I have been speaking with Representative O'Neill. I believe she is coming. I informed her that we would be taking the break until 12:20, so I do expect her to join at some point this afternoon.
Well, give me a heads up when she comes in. I know Representative McCray is here, and I believe that oh, wait a second, I'm looking at the wrong bill. 1880. We have Representative McCray is speaking for. Am I reading that right? Representative, are you good?
I am. I'm a co-sponsor, so yes.
Okay, I think, well, let's see if, is Representative O'Neill with us, Eli, or she's gonna be coming in?
She has just joined.
I'm sorry, all right. Sorry for any confusion. Representative O'Neill, thank you very much. We were just opened up the work session on LD 1880 and give you an opportunity to take the floor and address that.
Thank you so much for your patience coming over from committee. So I appreciate it. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. Good afternoon. I'm Maggie O'Neill and I represent House District 15, which is in Saco. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to present LD 1880, which is an act to provide textbook cost assistance for high school students enrolled in early college courses. So as you well know, the legislature has made funds available for Maine students to take college credits while they're still in high school. Through the early college program, Maine high school students can earn credits through Maine's community colleges and public universities. Recently, we increased access to the program, and I've talked to many young people who have benefited from taking those free early college classes. They told me that they wouldn't have been able to take early college credits if the program hadn't been available to them. Despite these successes, students came to me because they wanted to bring to my attention that textbook costs can be a barrier to students accessing the program. Unlike for regular high school classes at a public school, students who are enrolled in college courses have to purchase their textbooks. So that means that if a student can't purchase their books, they might not be able to take advantage of the program. So this bill is really pretty simple. It would create a fund for textbook costs so that students who aren't able to purchase textbooks will still be able to take advantage of the program. As drafted, the bill creates a non-lapsing fund that would be administered by the Department of Education, and the fund would be dedicated to textbooks for high school students enrolled in early college programs. After a student brought me this issue last year, I reached out to folks at the Department of Education. We began meeting in September, and they shared that stakeholders were already exploring how they could address this issue and others to improve outcomes for students who are traditionally underserved. I also met with staff from the community college system and university system to get their input on the bill. From those conversations, I have a couple things to suggest as a friendly amendment. The committee could clarify the language to specify that the fund is for early college programming. There was something in there that the department said I could be more specific about with language. So I think we could work with them on that. And something else to note is that as originally drafted, in the language I talked about textbooks, and the language could be clarified to talk about access codes for when students might have something online or related to a lab or something like that. And as for administration of the fund, stakeholders suggested the program could be administered efficiently by creating a fund and then coordinating with local school districts to identify students who require assistance. So let's say a student is is signing up for classes and talks about this as part of their plan. And textbook costs come up as an issue. Folks at the school could reach out to the department and then help the student get the books and then be reimbursed for textbook costs. I think the department can help indicate whether this would require any additional resources to administer. And as you're going to hear from stakeholders or submitted testimony, there's a group of people that's already working on this and other opportunities to ensure that equitable program access as it continues to be very popular. So this bill really was intended to be a temporary fix, knowing that folks were working on that, that in the meantime will ensure that the barriers to access are reduced. So I'm open to working with the committee on if you'd like to move forward with it to set a modest amount that could be helpful for students in the meantime. So thanks so much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. And do we have any questions of Representative O'Neill? Yes, Representative Brennan.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty, and thank you, Representative Neal, for bringing the bill forward. This is an issue that probably should be addressed given the significant increase that we've had in the number of students that have applied in early college. So as I understand it, what you'd be still asking the Department of Education to do routine and technical rules to establish the fund and to come up with the criteria for administering the funds. And you'd be looking at not only textbooks, but also any fees that might be associated with taking a class.
Thank you for the question. So I think both your analyst and the community college system and university system could answer a little better, but
okay.
The way that I understand it is that the state covers the tuition cost, fees are waived by the system, and the thing that the students have to pick up right now are the textbook costs or like a licensing fee, something that might be related to a lab or something like that. So it's really that specific piece. And then for mechanism, yeah, I think that would be a good question for the
just a quick follow-up. I mean, and the bill is written that the department will issue routine and technical
so that is how I read it. Okay. Thank you for reminding me.
And I'm assuming that was put in there so that they could address these issues that you brought up, and do it through rulemaking rather than putting in statute. So, which I would say is a good idea.
It was my intent to work with the department in the way that worked best, because they're doing this every day. So
great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of Representative O'Neill, folks? Seeing none, Representative, thank you for bringing this to us and for your testimony here this afternoon, and good luck with it as it moves forward. Sorry, Representative Dodge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. Again, I'm fighting technology today. Thank you, Representative O'Neill, for being here. My question is around discussion at the work session on this bill. I wonder if consideration should be given to free and reduced lunch applications. And to that point, often high school students have a lower rate of completing their free and reduced lunch forms. And if that were to be used as a criteria, how could you address that? But there may be another mechanism, but I did want to mention that for consideration at the work session.
thank you for that. And that was definitely something that came up is, would we want to put firm criteria in place? Do they want to address that based on the working group that they have together? And in my own opinion, that might be a little limited. There might be students that are held back if we set the bar that low. There might be costs associated with monitoring and stuff like that. So these are all good questions for sure, and I'll work on that.
Thank you. Anything else, folks? So again, thanks, Representative. We appreciate you being with us, and as I said, good luck with this moving forward.
Thank you.
Representative Stearns, I'm getting,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies for being so slow in raising my hand. Representative O'Neill, are you aware of the Maine Early College Task Force, or let me get it right, Maine College and High School Stakeholder Group?
I'm not. I mean, there were a couple people that I met with that are working on that. I can tell you who I did meet with. I met with staff, someone named Jason, JC, Chelsea. There are a ton of people that I met with, and folks, Mercedes and Amy from the system. So there were people that definitely shared different stakeholder groups they were working on.
Wouldn't you agree that it would be good if we brought in some information from that group? I'm trying to pose this in a question. There is a group that has met twice. It has to do with the University of Maine system as well as the community college system, dealing exactly with these types of barriers. And I went back through my notes quickly to look at the textbook piece. I know we discussed it, but my old brain can't remember exactly what was said from the field. So it would be a good idea if I got those resources for the work session, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I'd love to have them come. Yeah, those are folks I have been in conversation with, and they're continuing their work, and it's going to go a little past, when we'll have the work session, but I'd love for them to give you an update for sure.
Very good. Thank you.
thank you both. I'm not going to thank you beyond that, Representative O'Neill, or you'll get several more hands up, it appears. So, all right, have a good afternoon. Next up, I have two more testimonies, both for Representative McCray, followed by Steve Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good afternoon. I had good morning originally. Good afternoon to you, Senator and Representative Brennan, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. I am David McCray still, and I still represent House District 148 up in Worcester County. And I have lived my life in the great little town of Fort Fairfield, and I'm here to speak in firm support of LD 1880, an act to provide textbook cost assistance for high school students enrolled in early college courses. I taught school in Fort Fairfield for 48 years, and I retired in 2016. During the last few years of my career, some students took part in that early college program, and it was a raging success for those that did it. There were a few that didn't make it, but it was a great idea. This was an amazing program where students could take college level classes, get college credit for them, and sometimes actually carry a full year's worth of college credit to college with them when they first enrolled. Okay. I would like to point out that this can be accomplished without assuming college debt, but also without any financial aid. So they are not picking up student loans or taxing the student aid packages at the colleges. As we all know, the cost of college textbooks is often overwhelming, and as such become an insurmountable obstacle for high school students, especially for the more needy students. What I saw with this program when I was teaching is that I supported it for anybody that got involved in it, but I especially supported it for the students that, had it not been there, they probably wouldn't even have considered starting a college program. So I love the fact that it really did drag some kids in that had the talent, but maybe not the financial support, or maybe even the support of the family to push them into starting college. So I really like that. The part that I always found to be problematic was the fact that there were those very kids that might get dragged into starting college and catch on and go like a house fire. Those very kids if they didn't have textbook support, a little bit of financial support, they quite likely would say, I'd really like to do this, but I can't come up with $210 for textbooks for one class. I just can't do that. And well, I just won't bother. So I love this program. I don't know how long it would have to last. I think it should be put into place as soon as possible. And then when other avenues become available, then let it tail off and let it go in a different direction. So it attracts everybody, but especially the low-income students that may not have the opportunity otherwise. So I thank you for your time and strongly encourage your support for this valuable program, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Representative McRae. Folks, any questions at this time? Hey, well, thank you, sir. I don't see any questions right now. We know you will be available and you'll be with us at the work session, so.
Yes.
Thanks. Next up is Mr. Steve Bailey, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Senator Rafferty and Representative Brennan and members of the Educational and Cultural Affairs Committee. I am Steve Bailey, Executive Director of Maine School Management Association, testifying today on behalf of the legislative committees of the Maine School Boards Association and of the Maine School Superintendents Association in support of LD 1880. For all the reasons that have been mentioned so far, I think this bill is a good idea and we support it wholeheartedly. It addresses textbook costs for students taking advantage of early college and would support the goal of having more Maine students achieving degrees. A University of Maine report recently presented in 2021 shows enrollment in early college programs has exploded in Maine, and that it is positive news. Early college includes concurrent enrollment taught by approved high school's teachers at the student's high school, the Aspirations program where students attend classes on a college campus, and Bridge Academy offering college level courses through career and technical education programming. These programs all are designed to increase college attendance and completion for Maine students, particularly for those who find tuition and the cost of textbooks a barrier. As many of you know, Maine has a high school graduation rate of 87% and is comparable to the New England average of 88%. The problem is college enrollment is below the New England average and is apparently declining. Given the popularity of early college in Maine and the reality that every dollar counts for students trying to make ends meet, subsidizing textbooks cost makes good sense, and we support this wholeheartedly. Be available for questions, and also we intend to be at the work session if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, any questions of Mr. Bailey at this time? Seeing none, sir, again, thank you for your testimony and also for your availability at the work session. You have a good afternoon.
Thank you, you as well.
And Eli, I just need to confirm, I don't see anyone else on our speaking list, neither of for or against anything, neither for nor against.
That is correct. That is all I have for 1880.
Okay, so we had some requests for our work session, which we'll make sure we follow up on. And in the meantime, then I will call the work session on LD 1880 to close at this time. And we will move directly into our, excuse me, our final work session. And that is on LD 1893. An act regarding the use of a student athlete's name, image, likeness, or autograph. I believe this afternoon, I'm gonna have to shuffle. I know that, let's see, Representative, oh, of course, I go to the wrong one.
Well, Senator Rafferty, I'll make it easy for you.
All right, I have you speaking. I was just looking for others, but thank you very much. Representative Brennan is going to speak first, and he'll be followed by, I believe it's Ken Ralph. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator Rafferty, members of the committee. For the record, I am Michael Brennan. I represent District 36, which is part of Portland. So if I can just give you a little brief history of the bill. Both Senator Lucchini and myself put in bill titles to address this issue. When I saw that Senator Lucchini had put in a bill, I deferred and said, you go ahead with your bill and I'll withdraw mine. And so initially the bill did not make it past Legislative Council. Senator Lucchini appealed and it was approved for consideration this session. And then, as you know, Senator Lucchini resigned. So then there was a question of who owned the bill. And I consulted with the clerk of the House, and I was told, I guess we probably knew this, but just reaffirmed the fact that the bill is in the possession of the Education Committee. So it's not technically owned by the sponsor or co-sponsors, but it is by the committee. So I spoke with Senator Lucchini, and because I was the only co-sponsor, I agreed to present the bill as drafted by the senator. So that is why I'm here today, and that's why I'm presenting the bill. So it is LD 1893, an act regarding the use of student athletes' name, images, likeness, or autographs. You'll see some inconsistency through the testimony, and it's a reference to a NELA bill, NIL, and then there's other reference to a NELA that includes A, which is the autograph. No uniformity, but no big difference as a result of it. So why did both Senator Lucchini and I decide to introduce this bill? The testimony that I submitted gives a brief summary. Excuse me. In June of last year, the Supreme Court ruled against the NCAA and said that their practices in preventing student athletes from receiving compensation as athletes violated antitrust law. The NCAA, in response to that, issued interim rules regarding compensation and student athletes. But there have been at least 29 other states that have stepped in and passed legislation regarding NELA issues and trying to frame where the interim rules of the NCAA left off and protecting the rights of students to receive compensation and also obtain legal representation and engaging in activities that would provide compensation for them. I have met with Samantha Warren at the University of Maine system, as well as Ken Ralph, the athletic director, and we've had very productive discussions about the bill. They will be testifying today, and for the most part, we're in agreement with the suggestions that they have made with some modifications. But basically what the bill does is says that a student athlete is able to engage in contracts and to engage in activities that produce compensation or income to that athlete, and they cannot be sanctioned by the university or prevented by the university system from doing that. And they can also obtain legal representation in the negotiation of those contracts and in the negotiations of those activities. And that, again, cannot be prevented by the university system. And the testimony that I referenced, there was an article last month in the New York Times that showed since these interim rules have taken effect and since the Supreme Court ruling, there have been student athletes across the state that have engaged in a number of different activities from motivational speaking, from doing autographs, meet and greets, conducting workshops and clinics, which they have been compensated for. Previously, those type of activities would have been prevented by the NCAA, but again, the Supreme Court ruling said that that was violation of antitrust. And there has been a bit of a scramble in order to try to align statute and policy with the Supreme Court ruling. I think that the University of Maine system has been responsive. They have been proactive, and that they have taken steps to make sure that student athletes are aware of the Supreme Court ruling and what they're entitled to now. What this does is protect that right within statute. And it also, probably more importantly, since the NCAA rules are interim rules, those could change at any point. And depending on, if you look at the past performance of the NCAA, they could be have a negative impact on the university as well as negative impact on the student athlete. So this simply protects both the university and the student athletes, and it follows the ruling of the Supreme Court. And obviously, the activity in the state of Maine is going to be quite a bit different than it might be at the University of Alabama or some of the other larger colleges that have very well-known athletes. But again, in the New York Times article, it pointed out a lacrosse player that participated in a clinic and teaching high school students about lacrosse, and they were compensated for that. And that's not a major activity, but it was important to that particular student in terms of helping them cover some of their costs while they were attending colleges. So again, as I point out, there are 29 other states that have already taken action on this, and I think it's appropriate for the state of Maine to take similar action. And based on questions, comments from members of the committee and from the university system, I will work on an amendment to present at work session that hopefully will satisfy all the questions and concerns that people have raised. So thank you very much. And I can tell you with great certainty that Senator Lucchini probably would have been a better spokesperson for the bill, and that I had to step in at the last minute. But I know that the senator is also happy with his new employment opportunity and is looking forward to that. And that he, if he were here, would ask you to endorse this legislation and allow it to go forward. Thank you very much. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions as they might arise.
Thanks, Representative Brennan. Folks, any questions at this time? Seeing none, I'm sure there will be some that arise at our work session. We do not have any more testimony this afternoon for anyone speaking for the bill. We do have one additional speaker that is going to address neither for nor against, and two of them, I guess. I'm sorry. Ken Ralph will be followed by Mike Burnham.
Great, thank you. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Ken Ralph. I'm Director of Athletics at the University of Maine, which is the state's only NCAA Division I program. And I'm here on behalf of my colleagues at UMaine and across the UMaine system to express the strongest support for our student athletes benefiting from their name, image, and likeness, which we refer to as NIL, and as is the intent of this bill. At UMaine, our student athletes control and can now monetize their personal NIL to the fullest extent allowed by NCAA and conference rules, as well as our own NIL policy, which we've provided with our testimony, and we have posted on our website at www.goblackbears.com. This policy, which was put into place last July after the NCAA altered its own policies, is incredibly permissive. It has since also been adopted by other UMaine system universities, including the University of Southern Maine. In the last 6 months, a dozen Black Bears have signed deals, with $1,000 being the maximum value we have seen to date. While our preference is that any NIL law be enacted at the federal level, so it is equally applied in all states and does not create confusion for student athletes as they compete across the country, we appreciate why Maine would want to enshrine the important rights of student athletes, as we have already done so with our own institutional policy. That said, there are some technical concerns with LD 1893 we urge you to address if you determine it is necessary to move this bill forward. They are detailed in our written testimony, and I'll speak to them briefly here. First, the bill includes a definition for an institutional contract, but there's no reference to an institutional contract elsewhere in the bill. Consistent with UMaine's policy, any law that allows students to earn compensation from their name, image, and likeness should also prohibit student athletes from entering into agreements that conflict with existing institutional contracts. Second, by law, compensation a student earns, including from NIL, must be reported as income and could impact eligibility for need-based financial aid, including federal Pell. Given this, the section of the bill that deals with scholarships, grants, and financial aid should be struck in its entirety, or at least amended. Third, student athletes may also be employees of the university, and many of them are, including through federal work-study programs, provided they were not hired based on their athletics ability. The bill's section on employee benefits should be amended to reflect this. And finally, it is critically important that public and private colleges and universities have the ability to adopt and adapt NIL policies that reflect our values in evolving NCAA and conference rules that our teams must be compliant with in order to compete. For example, UMaine feels strongly our students should not be able to use their name, image, and likeness to promote products or activities that are illegal, or activities which leverage trademark or copyrighted university marks and logos. And our policy makes that clear. We question whether the blanket prohibition in the bill against an institution adopting policies that prevent students from benefiting from NIL conflicts with these necessary provisions in our own policy. And it should be noted that this is also the policy in professional sports leagues. This is an exciting time for Black Bear Athletics. We have a historic investment from the Alphon Foundation for our facilities in Orono, which will enhance the opportunities for our athletes and all Maine youth to participate and enjoy the benefits of sport. The ability for our student athletes to derive income from their name, image, and likeness is also exciting and long overdue. While I personally do not feel a state law is necessary, the university is not opposed to a simple state law that makes clear college student athletes at Maine's colleges and universities can earn compensation from name, image, and likeness consistent with institutional, conference, and other governing organization policies. Additionally, and this is very important, we strongly support the rights of our student athletes to retain representation in negotiating deals and in understanding their legal and tax implications, and we encourage them to do so. If you've been following this issue, you will know that the state of Alabama has already repealed their state's NIL law, and right now lawmakers in Florida and Georgia are already working on language to repeal their NIL laws. These states quickly realized that any state law would have had the unintended consequence of being more restrictive, so they are working to do away with them completely. As we work together to protect and promote this new tool for our student athletes, I urge caution so we do not unintentionally create confusion that jeopardizes student eligibility and opportunity. In essence, what happened is the NCAA has in effect eliminated the provisions of Bylaw 12 governing amateurism. Every indication is that all of the rules regarding a student's rights to develop their own personal brand will get more permissive going forward. And that was emphasized in this past week's Constitutional Convention vote. This is exactly why I did not ask the legislature to aggressively work towards state name, image, and likeness legislation. The schools which are best positioned to support their students in this area are the schools and states without NIL laws. Personally and professionally, I want our students to have full control of their personal brand and their name, image, and likeness. Our current environment without a state law gives our students the widest array of opportunities, and I'd like it to stay that way. And appreciate the opportunity to join you today, and I am very happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Representative Salisbury has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if for the work session, we can get an idea about some of the other states that have adopted this rule and how they've dealt with some of the issues that were raised by Mr. Ralph, especially around eligibility for financial assistance and things like that, and some of the other issues that he's brought up. I think that would be helpful.
Thank you. Representative Crockett?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Ralph, for that. Also for the work session, when we're looking at different states, I mean, when you're talking about the Alabamas, the Floridas, you know, the SEC powerhouses that have football, basketball students that multiple of them can make lots of money with their likeness. And for my opinion, you know, that's fine. Obviously in Maine, there aren't that many opportunities for big time dollars being made. However, you did mention that the money that they do make could affect their financial aid package. Could you elaborate a little deeper on, does that take away, does that get deducted from their scholarship earnings the next year? And is that dollars that you can reassign to another student athlete?
Sure, and that's actually an excellent question. I appreciate you raising it. So if a student were to earn quite a bit of money through their name, image, and likeness promotion, let's say they're running camps or clinics, or they're working with a local bank and doing appearances, and that adds to their net family contribution as it determines through their FAFSA, which looks at federal financial aid. The majority of our students are not on athletic scholarships. In fact, only a portion of our students are on athletic scholarships, and most students are paying their own way. And many of them are helped by programs both at the federal and state level to help assist them in achieving the goal of earning a college education and being able to pay for it. If they were to earn money through this name, image, and likeness, their expected family contribution could rise to a level where they would lose some federal or state support from a financial aid perspective. So it would end up netting out potentially negative for them after taxes. So it's something I'd just like folks to be aware of as we progress through this.
Thank you. Representative Salisbury, do you have a follow-up question?
Sorry, I don't.
Okay. So I have one, just please, Mr. Ralph. So if we didn't have, if this law didn't pass, what would the current status of a student athlete at Maine be? Can they go out and do the things that we're talking about without any pushback? I mean, I know they'd have to declare income. That's a separate issue, but can they actually attend events? Can they essentially sell themselves and these opportunities? Can they seek those?
They absolutely can. And you're seeing our students monetize their social media feeds. You're seeing them go through things like Cameo and being able to do appearances with people for like children's birthday parties. All kinds of different things that were never available to our students in the past. And that's very exciting. There's only a couple of areas where restrictions still lie. One of which I mentioned is anything illegal. So we couldn't ask, our students could not promote activities that are not legal through federal or state law, which we just felt was common sense. Another one is that they cannot use the marks and logos of the institution unless the organization that's hired them has a licensing right, which again, I hope everybody recognizes is just common sense. We've got to be able to protect our names and logos. And that is consistent with all of the professional leagues as well. If you look, a lot of the professional athletes, when they don't appear in their gear unless it's for an organization that has licensing through their professional league. So those are really the only two things that are really prohibitive. So really, it's incredibly permissive. In fact, I don't know of another school that's more permissive than we are right now in terms of students being able to go the full breadth of finding ways to monetize their personal brands. The one area where we do bump our heads a little bit is with international athletes. So we have athletes from 27 different countries represented among the 500 athletes here at the University of Maine. And it's a big part of our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts with what those students bring to us. But because of the nature of this, if they were to earn money outside of the campus environment, they are in violation of of their educational visa, because they are now employees in the US and they don't have a visa to be an employee in the US. So they could actually be deported. So that's one of the reasons we are really pushing hard for a national solution on this, because we feel it will help some of the international athletes be able to navigate this.
Thank you very much. So, and I know you're speaking for the University of Maine. Is that, do you know if these same rules are consistent statewide with all of our colleges and universities?
Actually, I do. We have a standing weekly meeting with all the athletic directors in the system. This has not been an item of big discussion because only a handful of athletes have been able to monetize anything. A couple at USM have, and we have 10, soon it'll be about a dozen. So it's still a relatively small number, but I don't think the smaller campus departments will see much of an impact from this.
Thank you, sir. Any additional questions, folks, for Mr. Ralph at this? Yes, Representative Crockett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ken, just a follow up to Senator Rafferty's question. Would schools like Bowdoin, Bates, Colby also be basically running on the same rules that you are currently?
From what we've seen so far, yes, the NESCAC schools, Bowdoin, Bates, Colby, along with Thomas, who we've talked to, University of New England is another one we've talked to, have all adopted similar legislation. In fact, many of them have copied and pasted it off of what we've already done. What's interesting is that Bowdoin, Bates, and Colby, a number of those students have actually been able to monetize some of their social media feeds, some of which are not even athletics related, which in the past they weren't able to do. So it's really great to see that flexibility for students to be able to go outside of their athletics persona to be able to capitalize in areas where they weren't able to in the past.
Thank you. Any other questions, folks? Seeing none, sir, again, thank you very much. And we hope that you are available for us as a resource at the work session. If you can make that, we'd greatly appreciate it. So have a great day.
I'd be happy to do anything I can to help you.
Thank you. And I believe we have one additional speaker, Mr. Burnham. There's neither for nor against.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Educational and Cultural Affairs Committee. We are testifying neither for nor against. We understand that this is a collegiate bill, but I think we would be burying our heads in the sand if we didn't think that this eventually will make its way back down to the high school level. So with that, I have a few things to share that we support. First of all, the testimony of Mr. Ralph in the University of Maine. We have worked with a compliance office at the University of Maine as we look at developing a similar name, image, and likeness policy here at the high school level. High school athletics and activities is the purest sense of amateurism, and that we have got to do everything that we can to protect the integrity of those school-based activities. Before the ruling this past summer at the federal level, our amateurism policy was to have schools contact the college or university that they were looking at and make sure that they didn't violate the NCAA rules and what they were accepting for payments or merchandise. We have since then reevaluated and feel that we need to have something in place that maybe guides them a little bit more. We're looking at a clear separation from the high school athletes to the school, back to the school. And our policy will just show, and we don't want to take those opportunities away from kids, but we also don't want this to become the marketing of these high school age kids. So we will, as Mr. Ralph said, discourage kids from promoting alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, and a number of other activities. But again, just in closing, we're neither for nor against, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't say that we're concerned about this coming down into the high school level. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Folks, any questions at this time of Mr. Burnham? And I'm not seeing any, sir. So thank you very much for being with us this afternoon and for your testimony. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Have a good day. Eli, we don't have any additional testimony that I can see.
That is all that I have, Senator.
All right, then I'm going to bring the hearing on LD. I just put it down. Just lost my number. I think it was, I gotta say it right. 1893. Boy, losing my mind today. Yes, 1893. I'm going to bring that hearing to a close. Folks, just before we leave, if you've got any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to either send me or call me, send me a text or an email. Happy to address those. And as we, I just also want to remind the Democratic caucus members that we would like to hold a caucus following today's hearing. Representative Dodge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Procedural question, please. Ms. Risler, our analyst, gave us instructions to find and pick up some reports. Is she able to tell us where those will be? Are they in the Ed Committee room on our desks? Can you answer that, please? Thank you.
Sure. What I left for you to pick up tomorrow is actually the major substantive rules that were just referred to the committee and that we'll be scheduling public hearings on for the second week in February. Those have all been left for you in your legislative mailboxes.
Okay. Anything else, folks? So thank you all for your work today. Appreciate your help. And we look forward to, I'll see you all most likely tomorrow at some point in Augusta.